What's up, everybody? Welcome to the lab. I'm your host, Joshua Diaz. It's good to see you. It's great to be here. Please, if you would, hit that like button on the way in. Anyway, it's great to see you guys. And thank you again for being here. Another day of twists and turns with not a lot of answers, but more developments. I think from the sheriff, if you know you're inclined to believe that, and I don't know what you would say it if it wasn't true. Although there are people in the department that are have a bit of what you would call angst, I guess. Yeah, it really does sort of feel like another day in the Twilight Zone. Is the sound in and out for everybody? I don't think so, but I'll check. I don't know. Sounds like I think it's okay to me. But only you would know that. Jody says it sounds great. I'll go with that. But anyway, so I think that there's a couple different ways to look at it. He flat out says that the Guthrie family and spouses have all cooperated and are all cleared, which is quite the change up from just the other day, to be honest with you. I mean, it was, he goes from saying that nobody is cleared, you can't rule anybody out ever, then he just rules everybody out. I don't know. I've never seen that one either. He's so adamant about not clearing anybody, and then today he just clears everybody. He clears everybody in the family. Okay, well, is that I don't know. I don't know what to believe. I guess I take him at his word, but I don't know. I think, did he get the DNA back? What exactly is telling him that? Not that I'm accusing the family of anything. I'm just going off of what he said when he said that, well, nobody's cleared in this case. You can't clear anybody. Then he's like, okay, I'm going to clear like 10 people right now. So, who knows? Who knows what he means? But what did you do? Oh my go. Give me a second. That would be Otis. All right, sorry about that. I'm back. Okay, so I'm gonna bring up. This is all a big cluster frig. Yeah. Right. Well, that's another thing. One day is one thing, and the next day it's another. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth we go. Possibly. I mean, possibly, or he really means it. One big cluster frig. All right, let's listen here, and then I don't know how you clear anybody when you don't have suspects, but
16 days in.
Trust me, I don't want it to be anybody in the family. Like I don't want it to be anybody at all, but it's got to be somebody.
Into this investigation, the Pima County Sheriff this afternoon is officially clearing the Guthrie family of all suspicion. Very important development. We just got it a few minutes ago. Police hope DNA testing as well on gloves may deliver authorities, a name, date of birth, address on a possible suspect tied to Nancy's disappearance. At least that is the hope today. But on that news, our senior national correspondent, Brian Enton, is back reporting live from Tucson. So there you go. The sheriff clears the family, Brian.
Yeah, we just got this statement in, Connell, within just the last couple of minutes. So let me read you the full statement because it's quite descriptive here. We haven't heard the sheriff go this far before on this topic, and we've asked him about it before. But this is from Sheriff Nanos, the Pima County Sheriff. He says, to be clear, the Guthrie family, to include all siblings and spouses, has been cleared as possible suspects in this case. The family has been nothing but cooperative and gracious and are victims in this case. To suggest otherwise is not only wrong, it is cruel. The Guthrie family are.
Let's not forget that. I mean, he was sort of the one that's, I guess, kind of suggested it, not the same way that Ashley Banfield suggested it, but I mean, this is a complete 180 from what he just said the other day when he was specifically asked, is the family clear? This is a complete 180. So, at first you say, well, let's not, put the cart before the horse and don't count your chickens before they hatch. And,
victims, plain and simple. Please, I am begging you, the media, to honor your profession and report with some sense of compassion and professionalism. So it doesn't appear he's leaving any wiggle room here, Connell, saying that they have been cleared as possible suspects, including all siblings and spouses. So it's a pretty big development because, again, we've asked about this before at press conferences, and he sort of alluded to this, but then other times has said, look, no one's been cleared. Everybody's a person of interest at this point. But now he is going as far as to say that everyone in the family has been cleared. Connell?
All right, that's really interesting, and it adds, or it's in concert with the kind of DNA testing that we're still waiting on, right? The gloves and everything else.
It is, and you have to imagine that everybody probably in the family and in the inner circle at this point has been DNA swabbed, and I say that because remember, they found DNA in Nancy's house, and they have said that it's not Nancy's and it's not anyone in the family or anyone in her inner circle, which would mean that they have everybody's DNA.
How do they know that, though, if the DNA was... I mean, if they already sent the DNA off for testing, how would they know that? Am I missing something here? Because didn't they send it to Florida and they still haven't got it back yet?
So I think DNA is the big factor here that we're going to have to keep an eye on in the next 24 to 48 hours because we've got the DNA from the glove that they're looking into. And then we've got all these swabs that are happening, not just with the family and friends, but you'd have to imagine these people that they've been questioning are also being swabbed. So that's how they're going to start cross-referencing here and try to figure out who they're going to remain interested in, Connell.
All right, Brian, we'll be back to you live in Tucson.
Thank you.
Oh my God, I missed it. I feel like I feel like I'm missing something as well. And let's see. Sammy Sosa says, "Hi Josh, do you think it's scientifically possible that he could really have totally cleared the family considering the case isn't solved?" I don't know. He must be going off the DNA, or he's trying to shove it to the reporters and whoever leaked it to reporters that the son-in-law was being looked at as the prime suspect, and he very well might have been on the inside being looked at like that. But I don't know. I mean, that's a pretty big step. Pretty big step to take. And look, I hope he's correct, but I don't know. I know I could. Give me. Yeah, of course they can lie. He can say whatever he wants. He could be just he could be just tamping down the fire, I guess. But I guess what I'm missing here is where the DNA, like, when did he get the DNA? I know that they took DNA of the family, and they got DNA from inside the house, and they said that the DNA didn't belong to anybody in the house. So they must have gotten that DNA back already. An FBI guy today said the sheriff should have never said they are cleared at this stage of the investigation. He said he's speaking emotionally, not factually. Yeah, I mean, it was quite the. All right, we'll play that here in a bit. It was quite the. All right, here's some more bashing of the sheriff. Play this a little bit. See what this is.
Begin our coverage with News Nation's Brian Inton live from Tucson, who broke this story about the
I will never kiss Cuomo. I can't stand that promo at the end.
FBI with 40 pictures going around to gun stores. Brian, any idea who these 40 pictures are of, or how the FBI arrived on these names?
No, it's a good question, Leland. We do not know the names, but we know that they showed up to several gun stores in Tucson with a list of 40 names, and they also had 40 pictures to go along with the names. So they know who the people are, and that they asked employees of the gun stores whether they recognized any of the names or pictures, if they had been in the stores recently, or if they had bought a weapon. So that is new. It seems like they're narrowing the field there. Also new, Leland, we are waiting on confirmation that DNA has been entered into the CODIS database, DNA from a glove that was found 2 miles from where I'm standing outside Nancy Guthrie's house. And this is significant, and it could happen at any moment. As our last check-in with sources, it has not been entered into the CODIS database, but when it is, it could perhaps generate a match with someone else who's already in this federal database. Another, when criminals are arrested, their DNA is entered into this database. And Libby Dean, our White House correspondent, is reporting, which this is also new, that there are now unnecessary delays. This goes back to what you were talking about with the sheriff and criticism of the sheriff. The FBI tonight, according to Libby sources, are saying that there are unnecessary delays because the sheriff decided to send that DNA to a lab in Florida. So it's in Florida. It has to come back to Arizona before it can be officially entered into the CODIS database. And Libby sources are saying if he had just listened to the FBI and sent it to Quantico to be analyzed, they could have entered it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Why does it have to go back to? Why can't it just go from the lab in Florida up the coast to Quantico in Virginia? Why does it have to go all the way back? And then I don't understand. I don't understand the logistics. I don't understand the logistics of that.
Into the database immediately. So they are alleging that is causing additional delays in the investigation. Leland?
All right, there is so much.
Why is this not? Why has this not been put in yet?
To go through, Brian. Stay with us through this as you have every night. We're going to bring in Bob Keeger, formerly of the Pima County Sheriff's Office, Tracy Walder as well. Bob, I want to start with you because so much in this investigation seems to come back to missteps by this sheriff, a sheriff you know well. We've had some of them in addition to this, sending the DNA evidence to a private lab rather than the FBI. Delayed FBI assistance, crime scene released quickly, missed the roof camera, delayed
chain of custody. I mean, all the sheriff would have to say is, yeah, it can go there. I mean, it doesn't have to physically come back to them, does it? I mean, I understand with chain of custody, but couldn't the sheriff just say, hey, send it here? I give you permission to send it here. It's not like it's not like the lab in Florida isn't a reputable DNA sampling agency. That they've never sent anything to Quantico before is ridiculous. Why? Chain of command, chain of custody. Nobody even knows who's in charge of the investigation at this point.
Thermal imaging plane, no grid search, unaware of the Guthrie family video when it was released, blocked the FBI from certain evidence, no clear leader in the investigation. The sheriff has had to make backtracking statements. You could say wrongly detaining a man, but oftentimes people are detained for questioning. So that may be tie goes to the runner. But beyond that, how do we look at this as just normal folks and say it's anything other than the sheriff really profoundly messing things up?
Well, what I'd like to start to say with is that the folks on the ground, I'm certain that they are working their tails off,
No
doing
question.
what they can with the information that they've got, working hard. A lot of the things that you spoke of, Leland, there can be some reasonable explanations to a few of those.
I'm not saying that him sending it to the Florida lab is the problem, but so you're telling me that because of, I know his hair, dude. I mean, it is 98 degrees. But all I'm saying is it has to go back to Florida, or it goes from, obviously it has to go from Arizona to somewhere to a lab. Okay. I can understand that. And then it gets tested and sent. Then it has to go back to Arizona before it could be sent back to Quantico and entered into CODIS. Why? But Deb, why can't he just pick up the phone and say, "Hey, can you send this to Quantico, not to us, since we're working with the FBI and they're the ones with CODIS? We can't do anything with it. We can't enter it into CODIS. We don't have CODIS." I'm tired of saying CODIS. legally, but this doesn't make any sense. Protocol schmotocol. Why do they have to release it back, or why do they have to send it back and then they release it? Why can't a simple phone call? Why can't a simple phone call be made? Why not? They do $1 million deals get made on iPhones every day. Fax machines. You can sign for something on the computer. Type your name. That's signing. It doesn't make sense.
But where there's some smoke, there's some fire. There are absolutely times to release information during an investigation, and there are absolutely times not to release it. So I know everyone on the outside wants every bit of information, but
yeah, I mean, you know the sheriff, though. Is this sort of par for the course? Is he sort of a local good old boy who kind of doesn't know what he's doing and shooting from the hip and is more interested in being on TV and protecting his turf? Or is he just not know better?
Well, look, I know people are saying, protocol. There's an 84-year-old lady missing. Let's get this shit into CODIS as fast as possible. Hey, lab that we work with all the time, send it over to Quantico. I give you permission. What, do you need me to sign something on a waiver? Okay, fine.
What's going on here?
I would say this is fairly par for the course. This is not a surprise to me that a lot of these things have happened. There have been issues in the past working with federal agencies. He can be emotional at times, but he typically has the best interest of the investigation at heart. Unfortunately, what investigations like this need is leadership, solid command and control, working well with your partners, especially the FBI, having those resources at your disposal. Right. They should have constant communication, and most of these things should not have happened.
Okay, so he's wearing a Purdue, it looks like it's a Purdue button-up polo. He is in a boy band.
Yeah, no question there.
I'm not even kidding. This is the haircut that I had in 7th grade to 9th grade.
There's a lot to bounce back and forth here. And I think, Bob, I'm just going to stay with you for one more second. One of the things that came out today was the sheriff clearing, and I'll read this, the Guthrie family. To be clear, the Guthrie family, to include all siblings and spouses, have been cleared as possible suspects in this case. The family has been nothing but cooperative and gracious, and our victims in this case. To suggest otherwise is not only wrong, it is cruel.
Thank you for...
Why do they cut off that way? They don't even finish it. And then they throw in Cuomo's ass there. Okay, once again, so this is from Sheriff Nanos the Thanos, aka Barney. I was kind of with the guy. Like, I was like, everybody's being a little harsh on him. He seems like he sucks. I don't know. I don't want to be too critical of him, but somebody's gonna go, Josh, I can't believe you criticized him. Well, whatever. Just the simple fact that they're having to ship stuff back and forth like that. That doesn't make any sense to me. It really doesn't. And you can say protocol all you want. Just because it's protocol doesn't matter. It makes no sense. It's protocol. So what? There's a lot of things that are protocol. To be clear, the Guthrie family, to include all siblings and spouses, has been cleared as possible suspects in the case. The family has been nothing but cooperative and gracious, and are victims in this case. To suggest otherwise is not only wrong, but it's cruel. Okay. Now, I want to play for you. Let me see here. It's a protocol. Yeah, the sheriff might change his mind tomorrow. Yeah, I want to play this for you for a second here. I think it's see here. This is 13 days ago.
You don't have any notes. You don't have any phone calls, i.e. a ransom or anything like that. Who's a 4-year-old woman? Situation where now this individual who may have her is not in the system. We then have to take a shift on, okay, why are you going into a house at 2 o'clock in the morning and potentially abducting an 84-year-old woman? What is the motive? If you're abducting a woman at 2 o'clock a.m. who's 84 for a financial gain, i.e. a ransom or anything like that, well, you're not the sharpest tool in the shed.
This is the interview room.
And then early in the morning, you don't see any activity or movement in ATM machines or anything like that. You don't have any notes. You don't have any phone calls. Again, like I mentioned yesterday, the first question is going to be asked, if in fact that was a potential motive, is show us a proof of life. So then the second piece of this puzzle is who in her environment, situationally, would want to cause her harm. Well, that's where RSOs come in. And that's why I want to know more about the attack in the house that caused blood. And this is probably why very early, right on, that the homicide team was called out. And why the search is probably still going on, but the first thing the sheriff talked about yesterday was LPR readers, license plate readers. So that tells us they believe, or they have evidence of either video evidence from inside the house, doorbells, maybe a Ring doorbell or something to that effect. That information may have gone to a server, not necessarily always the cloud.
Oh, we listened yesterday.
And as a result of that, they can get that information quickly from companies like Ring. They have a whole portal for just law enforcement. If there's blood there.
Chris brings up the DNA at this point, and he makes a good point about what kind of DNA is it?
They're going to do a DNA sample, but my question is there other stuff there, forensically, fluids, that they also did a DNA sample on, and they threw it into CODIS, or they're trying to get that evaluated to throw it into CODIS?
Well, Chris, before they do that, it has to go from Arizona to Florida, from Florida to Arizona, from Arizona to Virginia. Stay tuned.
These are questions that I still have. I don't sense in my training and experience that an abduction theory here with a ransom is in play.
So we're on day 16. This is like day 3 of the investigation.
Not like this one. It's a very unusual case. However, cartels are not in the business of kidnapping high-profile mothers of high-profile celebrities who are on television every single day. It's too much of a risk for them. So we got to lower that thought process in relationship to who the suspect could be. And my first thought process is, I hope it's not somebody who attacked her in the house in her bed.
And, what he's alluding to is something that has still not been ruled out. I mean, what else, what kind of DNA are we talking here? Where would they find the DNA? They have a sample in the house that they know is not from anybody that's a part of the family. I don't know how many people that Nancy would have over to her house, but that there is a sample of DNA that they know has its own standalone profile. But what is it? What kind of DNA is it? Is it blood? Is it touch? Is it semen? Is it, I don't know what other kind of DNA there could be. I don't know. Well, essay of an elderly woman, that would be horrible. It would be horrible for anyone, but it happens. Here's the thing. The main suspect in the Maddie McCann, I believe that's how I always mess up how to say her last name. Forgive me if I don't. His name is Christian Breckner. Christian Breckner horrifically would essay elderly people. He videotaped it. We're talking women in their 80s, like mid 80s. It's actually not that unheard of. It's disgusting. I understand that. But it's just it's a terrible thing to even think about. But it's possible. Play this a little more.
So we will find out here in a couple minutes about what the sheriff's going to say. What are you guys thinking?
As well. This is really, for me, pretty new. All the media attention. So I apologize.
That's what you want to hear. Yes, on the risk continuum, middle of the night, elderly woman living at home. It is low risk factor. It's not like the Summer Wells case where you're kidnapping a child in the middle of the day that's in a basement with a house full of people. When I say a house full of people, that's exactly what I mean. I mean a mom, a grandma, 3 siblings. That's about as high, that is about as high profile or high risk as you can get. This not so much. They did? They let a maintenance guy fix the sprinkler. Oh God, really? Hey, look who got his interview, by the way. I'm going to show you this. We'll listen to this.
Hope in finding Nancy Guthrie.
No, this is not it. This was 13 days.
Now honed in on pending DNA tests.
It is a weird uniform. I thought that too. It is a kind of a weird uniform. Not that matters, but
amid widespread confusion on social media and conflicting reports. News Nation's Brian Enton joining us to clear up some of the confusion live.
Tammy says the sheriff kind of seems like the type of guy who would say something like this because he wants to be accepted by someone famous like Savannah. He's all over the place. He really is. I mean, I give the guy, I give the guy grace, and I am not a detective in any way, shape, or form. I would never pretend to be, but I've listened to a lot of press conferences. I've followed a lot of cases, and I have never seen somebody be so. He just said the other day that he couldn't clear anybody. He said, well, they've all been cooperative. I can't clear anybody. And then today he says, well, you guys are being cruel.
From Tucson.
As cruel as transferring somebody for criticism to day shift and taking them off the street when they're the second most senior sergeant? That kind of cruel?
Breaking news from the Stream Center. Here's JV Buno.
My goodness.
Also, by the way, guess who got another note today?
What a weekend it was as Nancy Guthrie remains missing amid new reports coming out over the weekend, but still we do not know where the 84-year-old is and whether or not this video will lead us to results anytime soon. Welcome into the Stream Center, folks. JB here with us, and or JB here with the entire team on stream, including, I want to get right to him, News Nation's Brian Enton, bringing him in live from
He got his interview.
Tucson. Brian, it's good to have you back on stream. Let's just start with, how are you?
Hey, JB, it's good to see you too. I'm okay. Yeah, it's been a long, guys, 2 weeks. It's been 2 weeks since I've been here today. I'm kind of lost track of the days, but no, everything's going okay. Just hoping maybe this will be the week where we finally, get some answers here, and love to have a happy ending with Nancy Guthrie. So we're all just kind of on pins and needles,
Yeah, we all want a happy ending. Of course,
I honestly, I don't know the answer to this about the DNA. I don't exactly know. I think that it's a physical sample that has to be put in. I don't know.
see Savannah Guthrie and her.
I'm super confused by it, but the chain of custody thing that people are saying, you're telling me that there's no override for that it's ironclad, that it's so important that it go all the way back to where it started. I just don't believe that to be. I don't believe that. I just don't buy that. I mean, maybe, look, I'm stupid, so maybe I'm wrong.
First video in several days being posted to social media. I want to recap our audience because you know me, Brian, I'm going to kind of be a little bit unconventional with my first question here for you right off the bat. But in the last week, Pima County Sheriff's Office and the FBI, then you have a person detained for questioning and released, followed by a nighttime SWAT operation leading to people in handcuffs, a tarp being put over a vehicle next to a Culver's, but no arrests or much of really anything that we know of out of that just yet. You have the glove statement that came out, and that glove statement was written in a way that was confusing to just about everybody, including yourself. You had to read it a few times and make sure that you were understanding it correctly. You have a local station there in Tucson reporting that this is just believed to be a burglary gone wrong, only for that to have cold water thrown on it. Plus, you have rampant speculation from TikTok.
That's my theory.
TikTokers, YouTubers, and just the general public that have kind of descended in on Arizona with the world watching. I don't know about you, Brian, but sounds like a pretty good time for a press conference, no?
Yeah, I mean, and every day we kind of wait to see if there's going to be one. And it's been more than a week now since there's been a press conference from the Pima County Sheriff or the FBI. And it's a tricky one to cover because they'll say like, oh, there's going to be no updates today. But then little sort of things, drip out. The FBI will put out a statement, or you'll suddenly, get a text from the sheriff with some information, which is great, but it's hard. It's been hard to track every day. It's been hard in that way. The communication has been a little tricky for sure.
And I know that Sheriff Nanos has been doing some spontaneous interviews. He'll pop up randomly, and I'm thinking, wait, he's providing updates, but only to certain people at certain times. But as far as
I agree. It's whacked even for me. What the hell? I don't know what you're talking about.
Press conference could go a really long way in setting the record straight. How challenging has this been for you to cover?
I mean, it's been challenging. I think
Okay. I get chain of custody is essential to trying the case. Okay. So you're saying that a trusted lab that they use is going to somehow compromise the case by sending it directly to the FBI? Is that what we're saying? Okay. All right.
I mean, look, I think it's been back and forth between him and the FBI, and my sense is the FBI is probably telling him not to do any press conferences and to just play it cool right now while they continue to investigate and try to come up with something so that they can have a good update for a press conference. But I think, the sheriff has been under fire, and I think he wants to convey certain messages. And so he, they'll say that there's not going to be any updates, but then he'll text or he'll do he's close with a lot of the local stations here. So he'll do an interview with a local reporter, and then everyone will start contacting the sheriff's office trying to confirm that information. So it's been hard to cover in that way. But we just take it day by day, really. And just every day, it seems like something kind of comes out every day, something new. And you think it's slow. I mean, Friday night, there was the SWAT raid that we went out on. And then over the weekend was the information about the glove. And so I really get the sense that the next 24 to 48 hours are going to be significant just because of everything that's been happening with the DNA testing. And then, everyone's just kind of discounted this raid on Friday night because there was no arrest. But, they had a federal search warrant, which is not easy to get. So I'm not totally just brushing that aside. I still think there could be something that comes out of that.
Okay, so let's hone in on the DNA, because
that's what I thought. That's kind of what I think too. I'm not necessarily like that. That raid was a federal raid signed off by a federal judge. And you would think, hopefully, that the federal judge has a decently high bar for that, and that they have collected their DNA. And once they finally get this DNA into CODIS, once it travels 3,000 miles in the opposite direction twice, maybe it'll get there.
That could be massively significant, because you have the DNA that's being done on the gloves, DNA testing that's being done on the gloves that were recovered. You also have a separate DNA profile or DNA sample that was picked up in the house itself, right? So all this DNA testing is expected to provide results, but we have a rough timeline, I believe. But I mean, what are the expectations here?
So the expectations are that they're doing the testing right now. The sheriff decided to send the stuff to their Florida lab, which they've used for a long time, and which I hear is a good lab.
Yeah, that's not the issue.
And so it's all going through them right now. So we're waiting.
So that's sort of what I was thinking. Candy is as a chain of custody is whoever. It's not like it's going from the lab there to a bar in Biloxi up to a Planet Fitness in Pittsburgh, and then back over to. It's going from a trusted, secured lab, which you could argue anyway that it could be tampered with on the way back. That's just what I'm saying. I don't know.
What I'm hearing is they're still waiting.
Wild Hog's right. This is whack even for me.
On some results from there. But, like we saw with Koberger, there's another element to this, which has probably started, which is the investigative genetic genealogy. So even if the DNA doesn't connect back the conventional way to, one of the people that they've swabbed so far, and they've swabbed a lot of people, I've confirmed. I mean, a lot of the people they're questioning, they're swabbing for DNA. But so if those come back negative, they've already presumably started the investigative genetic genealogy, which is where they start looking through databases and try to connect the DNA they have to, distant relatives of someone who could be involved.
Right. And this all goes back to Koberger, which of course there's a parallel there. And as I'm breaking this down in my head and trying to understand and get a grasp of this latest development in this story, I'm also just curious because, okay, you mentioned that the FBI is Sheriff Nanos and just advising just the team overall that maybe press conferences right now aren't the most wise option as far as getting information out to the public. That's interesting because there was a bit of reported friction between the agencies and the possible withholding of information and information between the two agencies, even though that has been publicly denied at this point. What I find the most interesting about this is that in essence, are you telegraphing your strategies now to the public? I find this case to be widely peculiar in that we're not getting regular.
Yeah, they're saying that there was no glove found in the house.
Updates, but the updates that we are getting are providing us.
And it was just male DNA.
Insight as to where the
investigation
is focused, including right now with the gloves and then with the signal sniffer. And I'm thinking, is it strange to you? Is it hitting the ear funny to you as it's hitting the ear funny to me that the investigators are okay with the public finding out about their game plan here, the strategy? I mean, it's almost as if you have two football teams and you're making the playbook public. Is it bad to be tipping off a potential suspect as to what they're using as far as DNA and a low-flying helicopter with a signal sniffer, and putting that information out there? Because we have to assume that any suspect out there is following you and following the media at large.
Yeah, it's a good point. And we're trying to be careful with what we report. I mean, you know how it is when you're out on scenes, there's things you see and hear that you don't report for that reason. And the last thing that I would ever want to do, or hopefully any responsible journalist would ever want to do, is, interfere with the investigation. Because at the end of the day, everybody just wants to see Nancy come home in some kind of resolution. My sense is there's a lot going on that we're not reporting on that we don't know about. Like, for example, the signal sniffer. I just reported that yesterday. Sorry, someone's honking. I just reported that yesterday, and that was used last week. So there was a bit of a delay in us reporting that, and I'm not sure they're even still using it. The helicopter I haven't seen up around the house in days. And in terms of some of the DNA stuff,
signal finder, signal signaler, signal locator, signal sniffer is way down on the bottom of the list. I would think personally. Signal system, signal, I don't know.
That's coming out. I sense there's a lot that we don't know. So I think the stuff that they're releasing is stuff that they're okay with the public knowing. But I bet there's, tons of stuff that they're doing that we're not reporting on that they would prefer, stay secret right now.
Hi, Brian. It's Garrett Phillips, producer here for the Stream Center. And I just wanted to follow up on this.
He's like signal detector,
signal sniffer here that they talked about. So is this something that has been used before in similar cases? I know that this is not necessarily a case that has a lot of similar parallels, but is this something that has helped solve cases before? I mean, this is truly the first time I've ever heard about it. So I'm just thinking the audience might want a little bit more of a follow-up on that.
Yeah, I've never heard of it until this case. It was sent in by the FBI, so it's not something that they had here locally. And I actually saw a picture of it. It's a small little box. It's not big at all. It's maybe like 10 inches by 6 inches. And they attach it to the skid. It's actually usually used on drones, but the day that they were using it here, I'm told it was too windy to have a drone up, so they used the helicopter, and they attached it to one of the skids of the helicopter. It's just a little box. And it has to be, the helicopter has to stay steady and it has to stay low, which when I saw that helicopter that day, I didn't know anything about the signal sniffer. And I was wondering what was going on because the helicopter was low and it was not moving around a lot. It was just staying, like in one spot. And it turns out that's because they were using the signal sniffer. And basically they hover over an area, and I'm told it has to hover in one spot for at least 3 minutes. And it can pick up signals from Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker. But it also, what makes it like kind of not a perfect science is it also picks up other signals. So I'm told by someone on the ground here who was part of this whole operation when they were using it, that it was picking up all sorts of stuff. I mean, it was seeing our AirPods, reporters' AirPods. It was seeing like smart washer and dryers that have Bluetooth. So it's not like it it's like I said, it's imperfect. That's the way it was described to me. But it's a cool tool. I mean, and they may use it again. And if they get right over a spot where Nancy Guthrie is, the hope is that it would pick up her pacemaker.
Hi, Brian. Josh Scott here. You having followed all of the cases that you have in the past, and with everything that's happened here, I feel like we talked about that tone Friday night. We thought maybe there was a break in the case here. Now it feels like maybe there wasn't as much significance to that. What is the tone or vibe of the investigation right now? Does it feel like maybe they have confidence in a certain direction, or does it feel like they're kind of waiting for something to break here?
I mean, I felt a little bit of both, depending on which day. Right now, I'm hopeful, like I said, that something maybe is going to break soon, or there's going to be another big update just because of all the DNA that they've gathered, because I'm told they've likely started the ancestral DNA process, which, is huge. So my sense right now, I have hope right now. And people have said, oh, is it a cold case? I mean, I don't think it's cold because look, I mean, it wasn't that long ago we got the images from the doorbell camera, from the Google Nest camera, which was huge. And now they're starting to look into, there's reporting now that the clothes came from Walmart in addition to the backpack. So, this is going to take time as they go to all the Walmarts in the area and try to find out who bought that backpack, who bought those clothes, who bought the gloves. So it's definitely not a cold case by any means. So I'm hopeful right now. I feel pretty hopeful.
Wait, that backpack's $11. I'm not going to get that backpack, but I do need a hiking backpack. I think I'll probably spend a little more than.
Brian, as a follow-up here to that DNA question, actually, I had seen reports from NBC News that authorities were leaning away from family members at this time involving obviously the Guthries. Is that because of DNA results? I know that they had swabbed a lot of people in and around the home. So I just wanted to know if that report was because of DNA results or if that's what you're hearing.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. I saw that report too. I don't know why they're reporting that. I would assume part of it is from DNA results and just the rest of the investigation. I always, I'm interested in the NBC News reports and when they have sources, just because, as we know, I mean, Savannah Guthrie is a longtime NBC anchor, and I would imagine, they're also in communication with her. So, I am very interested in the things that they report according to sources. So I don't know where that reporting came from. I would imagine it's partially because of DNA swabs and just, the rest of the investigation. And at the same time, I mean, the sheriff has said every day, as recently as last night, that they're also not ruling anyone out at this point.
Okay, so when was this recorded?
So I think we just have to kind of wait and see.
All right, so what we're going to do here for the next 10 minutes here with Brian Enton here on the live stream here, folks, is we're just going to now just start looking at your questions, and you can punch in your questions to heyjb.live. We're only taking questions from there for the time being, just because the YouTube chat, there's so many questions coming in so fast. I can't keep track. Josh can't keep track. So,
I can keep track.
That system's a little bit easier for us to actually get questions from. There's no sign up required or anything like that. No gotcha moment. It's just a simple, basic form. So you go to, in your web browser, go to heyjb.live in a web browser, and you can just punch in your question for Brian, and we'll get to as many of them. We also have a poll question that I'm going to ask Brian about here in just a second, but this is what the form looks like here.
Nobody reads chat better than I do. It's true. It's true. I'm very good at it, unfortunately.
Here with this phone next to me on your screen. Brian, real quick about the gloves, because I forgot to ask you this about the gloves. There were a lot of gloves that were uncovered. And as far as challenges, we're talking about black gloves that are said to match the gloves that we see on the now, viral Ring doorbell cam video. But there were a lot of black gloves recovered. I think of it as dropping a deck of cards on the ground, asking somebody to find the ace of spades, and then throwing about another, 24 or so ace of spades on the ground and say, find the right one. It just seems to me like that had to have provided some complications, but they seem to have honed in on this particular set of black gloves.
Yeah, I'm a little skeptical of how the gloves are going to pan out, just because there's so many black gloves around here. And where they found those gloves, at least that one set.
Is it true? Is it true? Is it true that they're saying that the FBI was tossing gloves on the ground? Is that true? That can't be true. 1088. I might have to buy that backpack.
Was 2 miles away on a really busy road where there's a lot of trash along the roadway.
The gloves found approximately 2 miles from the Guthrie residence in the field near the side of the road were packaged up by Pima County. Pima County, I don't know, Office of Sheriff. Wouldn't it be Pima County SO? Instant overnight.
Marnie Hughes from News Nation was out there, and I was just looking at her video. And and I'm also told by local, there's a lot of homeless people around there. And would this guy actually, this suspect?
Yeah, I would think that, like, okay, guys, we're looking for black gloves. Let's use bright pink ones.
Have just thrown the gloves out the car window. It's possible. So I don't know. I'm waiting to see where that goes. I'm much more interested in the DNA that they collected from inside the house that is not connected to Nancy or anyone in her inner circle, because that's actually the crime scene. So that to me, I think could end up being more promising in terms of helping. And there's actually, I'm just gonna look, there's a helicopter now. Hold on, let me look real quick.
Yep.
You're welcome.
Oh yeah, it's way up there. I don't think
Where
it's the
are you,
sheriff's
by the way? Are you look like you're in the wilderness?
Yeah, I'm outside Nancy's house. So this is kind of where I stay most of the time when there's not any updates. So it is like very, I'm from Florida, like where you are, JB. So I'm not used to, there's a lot of cactuses and stuff. It's very different vibe here.
Right before Brian joined the stream, as we were in mic checks, Brian said, I have to sit on a box. And Brian Enton should never have to sit on a box.
Please.
I wish we could trade chairs today. I wish I could take the box and you could take the office chair. I feel like you need it more than I do. And now we're going to get to the questions coming in, but I want to ask our audience here as well this question. I want to ask, Brian, your perspective on this question, because it's our poll question on our website. And people are already starting to vote. You can see the vote counter on the bottom of your screen. The mass attention on this case. I mean, clearly people have...
Enton should win an award for his reporting.
Law enforcement, Savannah Guthrie herself, asking for people to participate, tens of thousands of tips, likely as far as the amount of tips coming into law enforcement. Do you believe that the mass attention in this case is more helpful or more harmful to the Guthrie investigation, given that, when you have this much attention, it can create complications as well?
It does.
So some of it I think is helpful. Obviously, they released the photos for a reason, and the FBI doesn't normally like to release photos unless they need the public's help. So I think
him and JB are really the only two that I really take at their word with their reporting, because I think that they are ethical, and I think that they're not sensationalists. And I think in the long run that does more for their reputation. Maybe, if you're sort of like, oh my God, look at this, and then it turns out to be nothing. Eventually that kind of stuff will fade away. People kind of get tired of that, I think, personally. I know I do.
I think overall helpful because they're asking for help. And we don't know what's happening behind the scenes. I mean, some of the best tips coming in based on those photos are probably from people who just saw them on the news or on social media. Where I think it's an issue is people online who are, and I have nothing against, like YouTube journalists and there's a lot of responsible people out there. But where I think it's an issue, and I go back to like even Gabby Petito and when we covered Koberger, is when people start posting photos of people who they think are involved. And that just kind of bothers me. That's where I think it gets a little out of control, just because I've seen so many times where, most of the people who are suspected end up not being involved. And, you really drag these people through the mud. When, imagine that stuff stays online forever. So I just think people need to be careful about that. Yeah.
And we've seen way too much of it. And I'm sure we'll talk more about that later. But
and I truly do believe that these guys take subliminal shots at independent reporters a lot. I think I just heard it right there too. I'm not saying who they're talking to. I'm just saying that I think that they do.
In the meantime, while we have you here for just a few minutes,
It's like they're trying to hand out journalism lessons.
yeah.
People through the mud, suspected and controlled, just because I've seen so many times where, you know, most of the people who are suspected end up not being involved. And, you know, you really drag these people through the mud. When, you know, I mean, imagine that stuff stays online forever. So I just think people need to be careful about that.
Yeah. And we've seen way too much of it. And I'm sure we'll talk more about that later. But in the meantime, while we have you here for just a few minutes, let's get to some of the questions and comments that have been coming in on our website for Brian Enton. Again, submit yours at heyjb.live. That's just a place that's easier for me to read them. So Kathy and Lindsay were the first two to get in questions. Kathy asked about the postcard from APL that was on Nancy's door. And was someone concerned prior to her abduction? We also have Lindsay here talking about the business card from APS. So clearly a lot of focus here in our chat from that angle.
Yeah, and that's an interesting question. It's interesting. This helicopter is right here. There is a business card in the door, and we zoomed in on it last night. And I saw it, and it is from Adult Protective Services from an investigator. It seems like it's been in the door for a while because we went back and looked at our video from like a couple days after we got here, and it was still in the door. But I actually texted the sheriff and asked him about it, and I haven't heard back. So I don't know. I don't know where it came from or what it means, honestly, but it is there.
Maisie wants to know, has there been any contact with the family outside of the pre-recorded messages? Do you know Savannah by any chance? I mean, you know, in your reporting, have you ever run into her?
No, I mean, I'm a fan of hers. I've always liked just watching her like a lot of other people. And I've, you know, from colleagues who have known her, worked with her, it sounds like everything you hear about her is true. I mean, in terms of just being a genuinely nice, good person, which, you know, at that level, there's just so many like jerks, you know, and apparently she's not one of them. So I think that's true. She sounds like a really, really good person. But no, I've never met her before. And every time one of those videos comes out, you know, it's just so heartbreaking. It just reminds you of like how sad this is.
Yep. How Connie wants to know, hashtags for us both, how could this be a burglary gone wrong when nothing was stolen but Nancy? You must have seen that report from the local CBS affiliate last night as well.
Yeah, I was skeptical of that report just because the people who I've been in touch with haven't told me that. I don't think they know. That's why I was kind of like, that's an interesting report. Because I mean, there's a lot of theories out there, you know? I don't think there's one theory that they're 100%, you know, going with right now. So yeah, and we don't know for sure. I mean, the sheriff has never fully answered whether anything was stolen, but you know, the sense is, based on when you put everything together that they've told us, is that there wasn't, you know, a bunch of stuff, jewelry stolen from the house or anything like that.
Right. Bethany says, why use a signal sniffer if they're only doing it over her house? We know she's not there, so it seems to be a waste of resources. Why not?
Hold on a second.
That told us is that there was theory that they're 100%. No, I don't think there's one theory that they're 100%, you know, going with right now. So yeah, and we don't know for sure. I mean, the sheriff has never fully answered whether anything was stolen, but you know, the sense is, based on when you put everything together that they've told us, is that there wasn't, you know, a bunch of stuff.
So once again, and everybody, not everybody, but I hear this one quite often where they say nothing else was stolen, but we don't actually know that. I mean, that's sort of speculative. And so that's just
jewelry stolen from the house or anything like that.
Right. Bethany says, why use a signal sniffer if they're only doing it over her house? We know she's not there, so it seems to be a waste of resources. Why not fly around other neighborhoods? I mean, where have you seen this low-flying chopper? Let's start there.
Yeah, and they may have. I just saw it at the house. I know the signal sniffer was at the house because I actually saw it, but you know, it went other places too after that. I didn't follow the chopper. And if you, I mean, a lot of people on social media like track the chopper, and you know, it does circles a lot of places. So I'm sure they didn't just use it at the house. They probably used it in other places too.
Let's see. Oh, this is a great question. R. Haynes, will the signal sniffer still work if Nancy isn't alive?
It's my understanding, yes. I think the pacemaker stays, you know, charged up. So, yes, from what I understand, it would.
Let's go to this question from T. Juddy. Again, all these coming into our website, heyjb.live, is the last call, because if you don't get yours in now, probably won't be able to get it in for Brian, as he only has a few more minutes with us. Do you think the glove DNA might be a distraction and they have more leads that they're finalizing? I think it's fair to say that this is a comprehensive investigation, right, Brian? And the DNA is just a part of it.
100%. Yeah, I think it could totally be a distraction. I think there could be a lot. Like I think I said it earlier. I think there could be a lot that we don't know about, and it could be a surprise when something goes down and it's like, oh my gosh, we were so focused on the glove and it had nothing to do with the gloves.
Look, Brian, I know this question. I hate shying away from questions. I like to really hone in on what people say. So I know this is a difficult one for you to answer. So given that you're there on the ground with this case, but I'm going to throw it up because, look, there's been a lot of people expressing frustration with the seemingly difficult and complex nature of this investigation, with how it's being handled by the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Office. So PM Dunn says, do you feel like the Sheriff Department has done their best in handling this case?
I mean, look, there's a lot of people who are upset with the way the sheriff has handled the case. It's interesting coming here and just talking to so many deputies and former deputies. And there's been a lot of drama with the sheriff's office for a long time here that just wasn't in the national spotlight. There's been a lot of turnover. I was interviewing a sergeant yesterday who was telling me that, the homicide team right now has like 2 to 4 years experience on average. A lot of the experienced people have retired. They're short-staffed. So I think criticism of the sheriff's department is definitely fair. I think there's a time and place. I mean, obviously, I think the focus right now should stay on finding Nancy. And I'm sure when that hopefully happens afterwards, everybody can look back and look at everything that was done wrong. But even the sheriff has admitted that essentially that he made some mistakes, clearing the crime scene. And yeah, I mean, there's definitely been drama between them and the FBI. I know that because I've talked to people on both sides. So I think it's fair right now to be critical of the sheriff for sure.
Alexa says, one thing that's missing from this case, Brian, that really sticks out to me is any vehicle component. And so we've gotten a bunch of questions about that. Alexa saying, I've seen
somebody, and yeah, we can look at, I saw your question about the backpack. Yeah, we can look at the 1099 backpack or whatever the frig it is. But what if that was a person? What if they went through? This is just a hypothetical, but what if they went through the back, got in through the back, and then they were bringing Miss Nancy out through the front because the blood was dropped on the front. And maybe that person had went around. Why would they go around? Why wouldn't they just go through the house? I don't know.
Reports that the traffic cameras don't record.
Because I don't think that was the only person that was there.
Vehicles. What is the purpose of the cameras if they don't record and can't help in situations like this? And it's so standard for stories that you and I have covered in the past for there to be some kind of vehicle discussion taking place, and this one completely absent. So what do you make?
Maybe he was watching the front while somebody else or other people went through the back.
Of this one.
Yeah, and I've thought about the traffic camera thing too, and there are other states too, just from covering other stories I've done, crime stories, where the traffic cameras don't record. So that's not uncommon. But yeah, I mean, a vehicle would be huge. My sense is the suspect or suspects
from Tucson.
Oh, shit.
It's just so heartbreaking. That
right. Bethany says, why use a signal sniffer?
And maybe they had no idea. Maybe that's why he was surprised by the camera and then tried to build a nest over the camera, which is weird too.
If they're only doing it over her house, we know she's not there, so it seems to be a waste of resources. Why not fly around other neighborhoods? I mean, where have you seen this low flying chopper? Let's start there.
Yeah, and they may have. I just saw it at the house. I know the signal sniffer was at the house because I actually saw it, but it went other places too after that. I didn't follow the chopper. And if you, a lot of people on social media like track the chopper, and it does circles a lot of places. So I'm sure they didn't just use it at the house. They probably used it in other places too.
Let's see. Oh, this is a great question. R. Haynes, will the signal sniffer still work if Nancy isn't alive?
It's my understanding, yes.
Yeah.
I think the pacemaker stays.
So given that you're there on the ground with this case, but I'm going to throw it up because, look, there's been a lot of people expressing frustration with the seemingly difficult and complex nature of this investigation, with how it's being handled by the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Office. So PM Dunn says, do you feel like the Sheriff Department has done their best in handling this case?
I mean, look, there's a lot of people who are upset with the way the sheriff has handled the case. It's interesting coming here and just talking to so many deputies and former deputies. And there's been a lot of drama with the sheriff's office for a long time here that just wasn't in the national spotlight. There's been a lot of turnover. I was interviewing a sergeant yesterday who was telling me that, the homicide team right now has like 2 to 4 years experience on average. A lot of the experienced people have retired. They're short-staffed. So I think criticism of the sheriff's department is definitely fair. I think there's a time and place. I mean, obviously, I think the focus right now should stay on finding Nancy. And I'm sure when that hopefully happens afterwards, everybody can look back and look at everything that was done wrong. But even the sheriff has admitted that essentially that he made some mistakes, clearing the crime scene. And yeah, I mean, there's definitely been drama between them and the FBI. I know that because I've talked to people on both sides. So I think it's fair right now to be critical of the sheriff for sure.
Alexa says,
I've thought about the traffic camera thing too. And
any vehicle component.
It was such a haunting image.
And so we've gotten a bunch of questions about that. Alexa saying, I've seen reports that the traffic cameras don't record vehicles. What is the purpose of the cameras if they don't record and can't help in situations like this? And it's so standard for stories that you and I have covered in the past for there to be some kind of vehicle discussion taking place. And this one completely absent. So what do you make of this one?
Yeah, and I've thought about the traffic camera thing too, and there are other states too, just from covering other stories I've done, crime stories, where the traffic cameras don't record. So that's not uncommon. But yeah, I mean, a vehicle would be huge. My sense is the suspect or suspects, and there could be more than one, walked in they parked the car somewhere else and walked through the desert or walked. I mean, it's so dark out here. There's this ordinance here that you can't have outside light at night because there's so many stargazers, and it is beautiful. The stars out here are insane at night, but it's also pitch black. So it would be very easy to, park a half a mile away and then walk into Nancy's neighborhood and would not be spotted.
Gabriel, I think we already answered this question, but you know what? It's considering Brian's got to go here. Let's, thank you for your reporting on this case, Brian. My question is, being so invested in the reporting on this case, how do you see this case ending? Cold or solved? At what point do you decide the case is cold and you stop reporting on the scene? This is a tough one for you and News Nation to figure out, right? Because you're there every day, but you can't be there forever. So right now you're on the case. So again, to the question, how do you see the case ending, and when do you decide, what your future is as far as reporting on this case?
I think it will be solved. I really do, in my gut, just because, you've got President Trump talking about it constantly. I mean, he's got the full weight of the FBI working on it. The way they got the Google video, which has never been done before to our knowledge. I mean, she didn't have a subscription. They allegedly didn't record the video, but then they somehow found the video. So I think they're going to do things in this case that are like extraordinary because there's so much pressure on the
sending DNA from one lab straight to Quantico. That would be extraordinary.
FBI, and there's so much pressure on the sheriff too. So I think those things combined, I do think it'll be solved. In terms of when we stay or go, I mean, I don't think we have any plans of leaving. I usually am like, I always feel like I'm like the last one standing at these things. Like everyone leaves and I'm still sort of like standing there in the dark. So that's probably will be the case here too, I'm sure.
Dalen question, does Brian know how much he's appreciated by everyone for his amazing coverage and dedication? It's great to have someone who sticks to the facts and doesn't spread rumors. Thank you, Brian.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you.
The appreciation has been everywhere on social media. Let me just end. I've always asked you this question on like every time I've ever had you on, and people make fun of me for asking you this question, but what are you eating? Are you taking care of yourself?
Oh my gosh, what am I eating?
Are you taking care of yourself? Because you're always out there for days on end, hours. I don't know when you get sleep, but are you taking good care of yourself? And what do you?
Yeah. I'm good. I'm fine. And just from that perspective, I have been sleeping enough, I think. And I've been drinking a lot of smoothies. We actually, I don't know if you saw, like there was all this drama that someone got a pizza ordered to Nancy Guthrie's house, and like they ended up making it to the front door. Did you see that, JP?
Yeah, I did.
And so the sheriff's office put out a tweet like, please stop ordering food to Nancy Guthrie's house, which I never like did that, but we have been Ubering Eats a ton just because we don't want to leave the scene. And so we always run out to grab it because it's like we're so afraid that that's going to happen again. Like when the Uber Eats person's going to try to walk to Nancy's door or something. But no, Uber Eats has been like really good out here just because you don't want to leave,
Yeah, and I don't think you had the pizza thing on your bingo card for this story. That one threw everyone for a loop. Brian, you're doing amazing work out there. I hope somebody sends this man a smoothie because you're I mean, with a lot of content creators out there doing what they do, of course, I think they're all following you. I think everyone in the comment section would start there saying that they're following you and all the great work you're doing. Anything else you want to pass along before we let you go?
No, that's it. It's good to see you as always, JB. Thanks for having me on.
Great work out there, Brian. And I'm sure I'll talk to you soon, pal.
So, God, they're ordering pizza. They're going to the house. That's kind of funny. I am extremely curious of what Ashley Banfield has to say, but this is very interesting too. So now they're visiting gun shops. All right, more Enton here. Now they're visiting gun shops with photos of 40 different people. A fan order for JLR. I love pizza. Pizza's so good. Man, that sounds good. I don't want to talk about pizza anymore. Three pizzas? Three pizzas? Eric just had pizza. Sammy, thank you again for your generosity. A hot take, but the more I watch the Nest footage, what is that? OBJ. The more I see kind of gentleness about him, the fact that he doesn't just immediately try and smash it or rip it off the wall, or he could just be trying not to make a lot of noise, but he did seem a little careful. But thank you. I appreciate that. But I see what you're saying. I did notice that too. Because first of all, I would never do that, but I'd have ripped the shit right off.
Show, I really, really appreciate it. Please click to subscribe.
You had pepperoni pizza tonight? I had a taco.
I appreciate all the support. Today's Monday, a lot going on with the Nancy Guthrie.
So on my adventure today, on my little 5-mile excursion, 10 minutes in. Let me put this back up. It's 40 degrees outside. I stepped in a puddle. I couldn't feel my foot for it just started. The feeling just started to come back not that long ago, probably like 20 minutes ago. I thought if I kept going that it would get better. It didn't.
Guthrie investigation. First of all, brand new reporting that I have confirmed about the FBI showing up to gun shops in the Tucson area with a list of 40 names and 40 photos. What that could mean, I'm breaking it down. Also, the sheriff now officially clearing the Guthrie family, the siblings and their spouses. I've got my FBI panel, my expert friends joining me to discuss that. Also, new information on the DNA and what is taking so long when it comes to the DNA testing and getting that information in the CODIS database, which I'll explain why that's so important, and the possibility of more than one suspect actually at Nancy Guthrie's house when she may have been taken. All of this is coming up in this episode of Brian Ensign Investigates. Hey guys, so a couple of big developments. The first, which I was just talking about, but I have confirmed that the FBI has been to several gun shops in Tucson, and they've shown up, the agents have shown up with a list of 40 names and also 40 pictures, 40 photographs, and they are showing the names and the photographs to the gun shop employees to see, one, if any of those people have been inside the gun shop, and two, if any of them have purchased a weapon, which is significant because that means perhaps that there's 40 people that they're interested in, that they're narrowing this window down. It's also possible that some of those people they're interested in, and like sometimes when they do lineups, and I don't know if this is that kind of a situation, but they'll throw other pictures in that are just irrelevant. But what I do know again is that they've gone to
Wasn't there a local, and I'm going to play this too, actually, maybe I should play it here, but wasn't there a local news station saying that they were operating under the assumption that it was a robbery gone wrong, and then and then it's just like, then they come out and say no, that's not true. That was pretty ballsy.
Several gun shops with a list of 40 names and 40 photos trying to figure out if those people have been inside the gun shop. So these aren't just like pictures where they're saying, do you know who this person is? They have the names. They just want to know if they've been in the gun shops in Tucson. So that's new, and that's pretty interesting. The other thing that's new.
And then they come right out and then they just throw cold water on it. Let me see. What's Jason say here? I do not appreciate the fact of politicians weighing in, mocking YouTubers covering live in the scene. It's our way of watching the coverage live 24/7. Yeah, look, I have no problem with people being on the scene. Not that my opinion matters. Any reporter, really. I mean, that's been something that's been going on for time immemorial. You think that this was a circus? What about Scott Peterson? I didn't witness the Scott Peterson. I witnessed the media. I was in Modesto when Lacey went missing, and I was there for probably about a week after that, and the case went nuts. There were news vans everywhere. You couldn't get a hotel or a motel, and every, like, down every street near the house. I mean, you had these satellite vans and people in lawn chairs. It was unbelievable. I mean, this is something that's been going on for a long time. It's not new,
Today is that the sheriff has cleared the Guthrie family as being suspects in the disappearance of.
So that's the big news of the day, is that the sheriff has cleared the entire family of any suspicion, wrongdoing, all of that. He's cleared them completely, and 100% cleared is what he said. Do I believe it? I would like to.
Nancy Guthrie, the siblings and their spouses. And let me read you the sheriff's statement because it was a pretty intense statement. And this is pretty rare to see during an active investigation.
Wait a minute. They said that? The FBI contradicted what he just said? Is that true? I mean, I'm not saying that you're. Good Lord. He said that? So the FBI came out and said that nobody's cleared. What? Where can I find that? Oh my God, dude. I mean, this is.
People are outright cleared. And he hasn't done this in the past. I mean, he sort of alluded to it, but remember, he said in the past, like,
I got to find that.
we're not, everybody could be a person of interest, but this is what he's saying now. He said, to be clear, the Guthrie family, to include all siblings and spouses, has been cleared as possible suspects in this case. The family has been nothing but cooperative and gracious and are victims in this case. And then he goes on to say, to suggest otherwise is not only wrong, it is cruel. The Guthrie family are victims, plain and simple. Please, I'm begging you, the media, to honor your profession and report with some sense of compassion and professionalism. So it's kind of an emotional statement that he's giving, and he's clearly fed up with people calling out the Guthrie family. And it's been an issue just in general with this case and other cases I've seen. I mean, people start putting photos on social media claiming that people are suspects, and it can really do a lot of damage to their reputation. And it's just, irresponsible. So but the big news is flat out now we know that the Guthrie family has been cleared. The other new piece of reporting here has to do with, you guys know that this glove that was found 2 miles from here at Nancy Guthrie's house is being tested. The FBI says it matches the glove that was on the suspect in the surveillance videos we've seen. We know that it's being tested and it's going to be put into the CODIS database, which is this FBI database of DNA, mostly criminals, where they can go and they can cross-reference and try to figure out who the DNA belongs to. But we're learning about now delays, and it's whenever you're watching this, I'm not sure, but right now it's Monday night. We've learned that it's still not in the CODIS database, and my colleague Libby Dean, correspondent who works in Washington, D.C., has some sources saying there are unnecessary delays in getting DNA into the FBI database. Let me read you what she's reporting. She says, the decision to send the glove with DNA to a private lab in Florida is causing what one source familiar with the case calls unnecessary delays in getting the DNA entered into the FBI's CODIS database. That's because the FBI does not accept DNA submissions directly from private labs. Instead, once testing is complete in Florida, it's likely the DNA...
Well, I'm going to rewind this to the beginning of this, but you said that the FBI clear anyone, they aren't the lead, but it sounded like the other night when they were going to have a press conference that the FBI asked the sheriff's department not to do it, and they obliged. Well, didn't you know that it's got to go on a cruise first?
DNA data extracted must first be sent back to the state of Arizona, where it can be uploaded and becomes shareable with the FBI for entry into CODIS. That extra step adds time, creating what the source describes as a catch-up process when the FBI could have processed and entered the data within a day, according to the source. So basically, the FBI is saying again that because the Pima County Sheriff's Office did not send this DNA directly to Quantico, to the FBI facility, and instead sent it to their private lab in Florida, that it's slowing things down. Of course, the Pima County Sheriff has come back on some of that criticism in the past and said, look, we actually talked to the FBI before we went with our Florida lab, and we were all in agreement. So it's still kind of tricky there. You got two different people telling two different stories there, but it sounds like, according to Libby's source, there's a delay now in getting this DNA into the CODIS database because it went to the private lab in Arizona, which is interesting. I'm joined now by Maureen O'Connell, retired FBI agent and friend of the show. It's nice to see you again, as always, Maureen. And Morgan Lane, who is worked in forensic.
That's sort of what I was thinking too. Being cleared means nothing at the end of the day. They can be baiting the perpetrator. Yeah, maybe it's a way to relax whoever they're looking at. You can always rule somebody back in. You can rule somebody out. You can rule somebody back in. Rule them out. Rule them in. Rule them out. In, out, in, out, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, and then in and out, in, out.
For a long time. He's new to the show, is friends with Maureen. And just, if you don't mind, Morgan, just tell my viewers a little bit about your background before we start.
Sure, of course. Yes. So I've been working in the field of forensics for approximately 22 years. Primarily, all of my investigations have been major crime scene investigations to include homicides, attempt homicides, sexual assaults, all the way down to burglaries. My career was in LA County, and I was finished my career as a forensic supervisor at Hawthorne PD.
Great. Well,
just
it's nice
a
to
few
meet
days ago. She just finished a few days ago.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're happy to have you on. Thank you so much, Morgan. I want to start out reading you this, Maureen, though, because this just happened. This is a new statement from the Pima County Sheriff. And what he says is,
ruled out, ruled in. Not ruled in, ruled out, but ruled in and out, and then in and out.
to be clear, the Guthrie family, to include all siblings and spouses, has been cleared as possible suspects in this case. The family has been...
Maybe it's not that they're not possible suspects, but maybe probable suspects.
Nothing but...
I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Cooperative and gracious and are victims in this case. To suggest otherwise is not only wrong, it is cruel. The Guthrie family are victims, plain and simple. Please, I am begging you, the media, to honor your profession and report with some sense of compassion and professionalism. So I wanted to see what you think, Maureen, because he's sort of alluded to that in the past, but then he's also said things like, well, everybody's still a person of interest. But now he's being very clear in black and white that they are cleared as possible suspects and that includes siblings and spouses. What do you make of it, Maureen?
That's the most definitive thing he's ever said throughout this entire investigation. So I'm glad to hear it. If that's what the whole investigative team is saying, then that's what we got to go with.
Do you think that means that they may be closing in on someone? That's what I thought. Like, does this mean that if they're clearing all of them, does that...
He said a lot too, by the way.
I mean, they may be getting closer to finding who did it?
Yes, I think that's exactly what this might mean. And, we're expecting DNA results as early as today. So they may be planning something big within the next day, maybe tomorrow.
You've sort of got the sense, Maureen, that something has been building, that we may be getting closer, maybe even this week.
Yeah, I've felt this inertia building for the last week or so. And it also comes from the experience of being in big investigations where you've got subpoenas out, you've got the DNA information out. They're telling us it's going to come back. We executed search warrants. The search warrant information caused us to subpoena more people. You've got some people probably under surveillance, other people with the whole phone situation and all the advanced technological stuff that's happening. It's all just coming together. When you add into that the tips and leads and then how they doubled when they doubled the reward, we've got a lot of information pouring in, getting merged and purged every which way. And I just hope that it's go time.
I want to ask you, Morgan, because there's been a big focus on the DNA the last couple of days, because we know they found DNA in Nancy's house, and then they also found DNA on this glove 2 miles away from Nancy's house that apparently the FBI says looks like the glove that the suspect was wearing. How did they go about, I'll start with the glove. How would you go about processing a glove like that?
So when we get evidence like that, we're looking for the biological evidence, more like trace DNA. So skin cells, sweat, things like that are left behind inside of the glove. So we bring it back, we process it, swab it, and then send it to a lab, whichever lab of your choice. Obviously, the sheriff in this case had a lab in Florida. So we're going for those touch DNA, that skin cell. I mean, it's a little bit difficult only because you have that glove 2 miles away from the scene. But obviously, if it comes back with a profile, it's investigative lead and they can hunt it down.
The fact that it wasn't found, it was found almost 2 weeks later. Is that an issue? I mean, I don't think it had rained at that point, but it's still, outside here in Arizona.
I mean, it can have effects on it, but I mean, the bigger issue is going to be down the road in court. But either way, the goal obviously is to get Nancy back. So if they're going to swab that, get some DNA from it, and then run that lead down, then that's the ultimate goal. How it holds up in court might be a little bit trickier later because you're talking, like you said, 2 weeks down the road, 2 miles away from the house. I mean, it's a good defense if someone wants to ask later, could that glove have been, thrown out when he was on a walk or when he was driving down the street or however it got there.
Yeah, you talk about defenses. I was thinking that too, just that they acknowledge that there's been so many gloves that have found and that searchers have dropped gloves. I mean,
I hope that when they get this DNA finally crammed into CODIS after a fortnight, that he gives a clear description of who was in that house that shouldn't have been. And hopefully it matches somebody that they've taken DNA from. And then we can go bing, bop, boom, bop, bam. Ruled in, out, out and in, ruled out, now you're ruled in. You're ruled out, you were released, now you're not released. Now you're released, now you're unreleased. Now you're released and not released. Released, not released. Guilty, not guilty. Person of interest, suspect, not a suspect. Cleared, uncleared, ruled in, ruled out, ruled in, and then out.
and that seems like a defense attorney would just key in on that statement that they put out. With Nancy's house, though, they've said that
Brian,
that,
can I weigh in on the gloves?
Yeah, go. Yeah, always, Maureen. Just feel free to jump in.
When we're talking about the gloves that they found, those 17 other ones, you have to understand a couple of things. Number one, they had a bunch of searchers out there. I think they said at the beginning that they were volunteers, and they have this whole contingent of people, sworn and unsworn, and volunteers that come out to do all their search and rescue stuff. So they have a different sense of evidence and throwing things away than maybe a sworn person might, or a person that works on a forensics team like Morgan does. But also we've had instances where we put them all in a bag and then the bag blows away and then we have gloves all over the place. And, I just think it was, Morgan, do you have any experience with that?
Yes. I mean, generally speaking, at crime scenes, we create trash bags that specifically.
Hey, where's our certified baddie guy that was in this? He was calling people. Where did he go? I saw him here earlier.
For our discarded wear, whether it's like biosuits or gloves, water ampules. I don't
know if you guys were here last night, but we had 2 certified baddies. One guy was in the chat that wasn't, he wasn't wearing a shirt on his profile picture. And then he said Cece was a certified baddie too.
So we try to keep all of our trash in one location, but you're right, things happen. Potentially a windy day. I mean, it's Arizona. The elements are obviously part of it. I would say though, with that glove, if you're going back to Nancy, if they're going to say whether or not it came from the suspect, like if that's going to be defense down the road. I mean, if Nancy's DNA is on it, now it's a whole different ballgame, right? Because if he's grabbing her and then he discards the glove, you should have both suspect and victim on it, which now is a little more difficult to prove. Why is that glove deposited out there with both victim and suspect DNA on it?
And then one other thing, one final thought on that is, I have never, ever in 25 years working crime, have I ever worn black nitrile gloves. I mean, I've worn blue ones, white ones, but we don't wear black ones because I always felt it was important to wear lighter color ones so that if I got anything on it, I could immediately take them off and discard them in our trash,
Yeah, and I will say there was one day I saw the FBI searching, and there was one female FBI agent that had a big wad of black gloves sticking out of her back pocket. And I'm assuming she had them in case she saw something and needed to put the gloves on. But it's funny, I noticed it because I was like, they look like they were going to fall out. And even we bought those black gloves because we wanted to show, I don't know if I showed you, Maureen, that one day, but we bought them because we wanted to show them in our stories, like, hey, gloves like this. And we were so careful. I was like, we better not drop any of these gloves. You know what I mean? Like
you're in enough trouble already, Brian.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, that'll be just my luck. There'll be my DNA on the, on the gloves. But anyway, I was surprised to see her with those gloves hanging out the back pocket like that, especially because the guy was wearing black. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
What were you going to say though, Morgan? Sorry.
Along Maureen's lines. I mean, there are black gloves. You can purchase them, generally speaking, for the exact reason that Maureen said we don't. A lighter color glove shows if we have any fluids on our hands, when they get covered in black powder for processing for prints, like you can obviously see how much is on your gloves, so you can exchange them out. We have used them, but we switched away from them.
I want to ask you about, Morgan, about the house specifically, because the sheriff has said that they found DNA in the house that does not connect to Nancy. It's not Nancy Guthrie's DNA, and it's not her family or anyone in her inner circle, which I guess would mean that they've swabbed everybody at this point. Is that what that means?
Yeah, I mean, direct comparisons are easier to get through, quicker to get through. You're not uploading into the CODIS database. You're not trying to go through all of those profiles. It's quicker to do a direct comparison to a family member. So I'm assuming right off the bat, they ask for consent from those family members to get some buccal swabs from them and to get them sent to the lab for comparison. I'm guessing that's why you got that news today, that they're going to be able to rule those family members out. I guess based on the glove, if we're assuming the glove and the house, whatever that foreign profile is, that's unknown at this time.
What glove in the house? I thought there was no glove in the house. I'm so freaking confused, dude. Oh my God. What glove in the house? I thought that there was, it was made crystal. Glove in the house, not glove in the house. We got a glove in the house, rule it in, rule it out, in, out, glove in the house, no glove, glove in the house now, no glove in the house, no glove, no glove. Glove in the house, no glove in the house. DNA, no DNA. Ruled in, ruled out. In, out, out and in, cleared, not cleared, suspect, not a suspect, detained, released.
I'm assuming it's coming back to no one.
So when they would go into a house like Nancy's to process it, and
that's why you got swabs from them and to get them sent to the lab for comparison. I'm guessing that's why you got that news today, that they're going to be able to rule those family members out. I guess based on the glove, if we're assuming the glove and the house, whatever that foreign profile is, that's unknown at this.
So is there a glove in the house or not? Do you know something we don't?
Time, I'm assuming it's coming back to no one.
So
it would come back to no one because there was supposedly no glove in the house.
When they would go into a house like Nancy's to process it, and they say that they found DNA that doesn't belong to Nancy or any of her friends or family.
It's like hailing outside now.
How does that come about? Are they just swabbing the whole house? Like, can you really walk me through how they go about processing a house like this?
So generally speaking, when we go into houses, we want to look for areas that we believe were some point of contact by the suspect. So, I mean, in this case, it's a little more difficult because we don't have Nancy to say, this item was moved or this item has disappeared. So we're looking for areas where maybe it was disturbed, or I'm assuming because the family went to check on her, they noticed areas that looked maybe out of place, or like what they said, maybe some things were knocked over.
How do you know that that's a proper percentage?
So you're going to go for those areas. If you're going for door handles where the suspect was entering in and out, those areas can be swabbed, but generally speaking, they're a lot more difficult to analyze because how many people have touched that door handle? We slough off thousands of skin cells daily, so anybody who goes in and out of there potentially could have deposited onto those areas. But if they're saying they have a profile inside the house, I'm thinking that maybe it's something that they specifically swabbed, knowing that it looked like it had been gone through, it was ransacked, it was knocked over, something that led them to that area that they believe they would develop a profile.
if there's a knife out on the counter, you're going to do the handle of that and the blade. If need be, you're going to use alternate light sources. You're going to go through the house very systematically. We in the FBI, we mark every single room, A, B, C, D, F, G, whatever it is. And then we, within there, every time we find any piece of evidence.
I want to know who the very first person was in CODIS. It was Abel. Remember from that, what's that book? It was a bestseller, New York Times, The Bible. He killed his brother.
We photograph it first, of course. And, you know, we're gonna like for this case, I'll tell you where I would have tested. That guy was in there for 41 minutes. And one time we were called to process a hotel room right after 9/11 where they thought some hijackers stayed, or some people associated with the hijackers. And so I went in there with the bomb tech because we thought the room might be.
Oh, no, wait, my bad. It's Cain. Cain killed Abel. Abel didn't kill Cain. I can't believe I got that one wrong.
Booby trapped first. Everyone was spread out all over the city. So we go in there. I couldn't find a fingerprint on anything. And I could usually find fingerprints anywhere. We were just about ready to give up. And then I thought, wait, there were 3 men staying in here for 2 days. I lifted up the toilet seat in a place where someone normally wouldn't with my left hand. And then I processed the whole bottom of the toilet seat. And there were like 25 sets of prints. And
oh my God.
So we developed all of them, collected all of them, and turned them into the case agents. So under a toilet, well, that's assuming someone would raise the toilet seat, but in a situation like this. But that guy was in there for 41 minutes. Whatever the heck he was doing, I mean, did he sit down and eat a meal? I would definitely test the handle of the refrigerator, because you'd be surprised how many people, you know, take a powder after they do some nefarious.
Yes, Cain's donkey was actually it was towed and fingerprinted.
Deed. What do you think about that, Morgan?
When you said, Maureen, that you thought that he was maybe even high.
Oh yeah, I think for sure that guy was high. And the other thing about that person that I'd be looking for if I were processing that scene is after watching that video of him at the entryway, he had that bite mic or that bite flashlight in his mouth. And whenever you're holding anything in your mouth, and you know, like even if there have been a few times I've had an actual flashlight in my mouth because I'm doing something with both hands, your mouth tends to water profusely. And so if he's holding it and just to get it in there right a couple times, he's going to have his saliva all over those gloves. And the transfer for that could be pretty significant, right, Morgan?
Yeah, it's hard. It's difficult too, because his gloves were on before he came up to the door. So what has he touched without gloves? Did he touch that backpack while he was preparing it and transferring his skin cells onto the backpack? And then he touches the backpack with his gloves. He's now transferred that DNA onto his gloves that then could be transferred onto the door handle or somewhere inside of the house. Like, it's easily transferable, which is what we see in law enforcement, especially with touch DNA. It's not a large, like wet sample, blood, semen, saliva. It's a very free, lightweight sample that can travel and transfer easily. So although he thought he might be careful, it's very, very easy to transfer that stuff from other items you've touched. If he bought that weeks ago, if he wore that outfit, got dressed, he might have some skin cells on it. Then he's touching it with, he's just probably accumulating it on the gloves and then transferring it. If he's in there for 40 minutes and, you know, his hands are starting to sweat, he's in that jumpsuit, like you could now be, you know, you're maybe there's some perspiration going on and dripping from the gloves. It's hard to say. But 41 minutes in the house is a long time to be in there to not transfer something. Maybe not fingerprints, because your fingerprints are going to be covered with your gloves, but DNA, definitely.
So if he touched his mouth and then.
This is obviously somebody who has never once smoked pot in their life, because I think that has the exact opposite effect of a saliva mouth. You ever seen the movie How High or Half Baked?
Touched the wall or touched the kitchen.
Have you ever been in a 7-Eleven at 3 a.m. after you're off the Bubba Kush, staring at a burrito like it's the Holy Grail.
Encounter that would, even with the gloves on, that would then leave DNA?
Yeah, so we have to go in a particular order when we're getting ready to swab something for DNA, because it doesn't. So imagine I put my gloves on and then I put a mask on. All I'm doing is touching my face, touching my hair, touching my ears. So you want to do it in a systematic order. If he put that mask on, or he's worn it before, and then he's now puts on his gloves, but he's going and touching that mask that's on his face, or he coughs or anything, sneezes, anything, he potentially is transferring that DNA onto those gloves that's getting transferred throughout the house.
What were you going to say, Maureen?
If the let's say you go in the bathroom and the medicine cabinet is slightly ajar, you're going to stand there for a moment and imagine, where do I think this guy touched this thing? Where do I think he touched it? And then you may turn out the lights and use an alternate light source. You may just use a really good flashlight, but you're going to then start looking for fingerprints around that door. You're going to, we didn't have the video of how he tried to enter the house, but you can see now he's like a fat finger dude with those double gloves on. And I think the gloves he had under the nitro ones were like those neoprene ones that you get pretty much anywhere, including Walmart. And because they looked thick, they looked squishy, but they didn't look that thick and squishy.
There's nothing like a Capri Sun when you're off the Bubba Kush. I quit. I had to quit all the day. When I went on my health journey, I had to quit all of that.
So anyhow, you're thinking, where would a guy with those type of gloves on, with that size hand, where would he grab? And then you go and look for that, for the DNA, or you're not going to find fingerprints. But back then, they could have been looking for fingerprints.
I would beg somebody to lick the Cheeto dust off their fingers if I was off the Bubba,
because they didn't know he was double gloved.
Would they be looking for fingerprints? Well, I guess if they knew he was gloved, you're right, though. The video came out later. So initially, they probably were looking for fingerprints all over the place, you think?
We still process for fingerprints a lot of times, because more times than not, I cannot tell you that they take off their gloves while they're in there because they're trying to do something, and they touch a few things and then they re-glove. We've had where they come in with one glove on one hand. I mean, in this case, I think we see both hands, but it's one of those things where you don't know what they did. You don't have a play-by-play. So it's better to be cautious and to process as if you don't know, so that you get that evidence initially and not, 2 weeks later or weeks after.
With the blood droplets we saw, would they test every droplet, or do they just test a couple typically, Morgan?
Generally speaking, we'll only test something that's outside of the norm. So if you have a blood trail and everything's flowing in the trail, but then there's one cast off, like far to the left or far to the right, and it doesn't look like it's in the same flowing pattern as the other blood drops, we'll swab that one. Obviously, we swab the trail, but we're looking for ones that are out of the norm of the blood stain.
With all the cases that you processed over the years, Morgan, were you surprised that they cleared the crime scene so quickly initially, before the FBI even had the opportunity to come back and do their thing?
Yeah, it's always hard because with the information you get.
I don't think so. And also, I'm seeing people say that, what's that lady's name? The one that works for Fox News, but she does her own podcast. Now I'm hearing people say that nobody that they're not cleared, but the sheriff said they're cleared. Megan Kelly, yeah, that's right.
Actually, a lot of times it's easy to Monday morning quarterback, because when we first get the info, we're limited on the information that we get. And then as it starts to develop and it develops more, if we've already cleared, then sometimes that's probably what you're seeing is where they're rolling back to the scene and they're doing additional follow-up, where they probably got that video and then we're like, oh shoot, now we need to go and look for those weeds that look just like they were, cast aside on the doorstep. We need to look at areas that were touched. It's hard because it takes a lot of times, days to get more information.
You saying that Megan's a baddie? Is that what you're trying to say?
And so when they're initially
Jobs in the chat,
processing what they believe is maybe a missing person or possibly suspicious, maybe there wasn't as much effort that went in initially, but that was based off the info that they had.
What, Maureen, did it surprise you?
Well, for me, if it was processed properly, no, you can release it whenever you think you're done. But I'm going to go through what our protocols are, and I'm sure Morgan will say hers are similar from the state and local side. But before we leave a crime scene, we have a list of about 20 things we have to do before we leave. We have to make sure everything is done. And it's not just one person making the decision.
Dude, if Thanos comes out tomorrow and says, we pulled everybody back in,
the team will get together and you'll say, hey, do we have everything from room B? Walk me through what you did here, because there's usually only going to be one person that's going to testify. We think all the way to trial when we're doing this. All right, we found this here, we've got the photographs, everything's done. It's all been to scale. You got a close, a medium, a far away shot so that we can recreate it if need be. And then we go through just all of our whole set of protocols to determine, yes, everything that we feel should have been done has been done. At that point, yes, you can release the scene. But in a case like this, when it just started growing so quickly, it just would have made more sense just to put up the caution tape, leave it up, and maybe have, sometimes the sheriff department wouldn't have the manpower to put someone on there 24 hours, because that's a lot of manpower to take away from a department that's covering, what's that county? Didn't they say it was something like 9,000 square miles?
It's huge. Yeah.
It's huge. That you can't have a deputy just sitting there the whole time. That family, if you want, we could, they could have hired someone to sit there and secure that place. I don't know if it would be considered secure for police purposes, but I guess I see both sides. I guess I see both sides, but in this particular instance, I think they cleared it way too soon, especially since the FBI was coming in. And as a courtesy, I would have locked it down until the FBI got there and said, okay, it looks like everything's been done.
That's another thing. Lockdown, unlock, lockdown, unlock, unlock, lockdown, unlock, lockdown, lockdown, unlock, lockdown, 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 unlocked, unlocked, unlock, lockdown, down, out, cleared, not cleared, suspect, person of interest, cleared, subject of investigation, detained, released, swab, in, out, out and in.
The way we would want it, because
holy jeez,
I don't think that was the case.
I actually, to chime in on that,
I can't make it any clearer than that. I really can't. I wish I could.
I agree. I would do the same if it was a local investigation and we knew the FBI was coming in to assist, and the amount of resources the FBI has, I don't know that we would have released it at that point.
I forgot about the friggin' house that was released and not released. Tape up, tape down, tape up, tape down, up, down, down, up.
We would have kept it until that FBI or whoever we had requested resources from came in before we released, because once you release it, it's just a little more difficult.
And you have to get another warrant.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a warrant and you go in with a consent to search, it's not
the risk.
It's a
Nano says Mork is going to go down in history with this case as the great gaslighter. His uniform is weird too. That bothered me from day one. Not that has anything to do with anything, but his uniform's weird. It doesn't look like a normal uniform. It looks like he's just wearing a khaki button-up shirt.
big risk to have any of that evidence brought in, because the judge signs off on it. That proves that you had probable cause. And so it's a lot easier to have the evidence submitted.
Yeah, I touched on that with Steve Moore, your friend and, retired.
This would be my press conference. Look, we don't know shit. All right, have a good day.
FBI agent. Also earlier this week when we were talking about Annie's house, because we were told that Annie's family gave consent for them to search, and he was saying, but even if they gave consent, you would want a warrant regardless, just because it holds up stronger if you end up in court.
Yeah. It's a lot easier to get any evidence thrown out if it was on a consent than if you had a warrant. Basically.
And I want to ask Morgan about this, because you and I talked about this, Maureen, that you think it's possible that there could have been a second suspect, that he was at the front door, this guy who we've seen, and there may have been someone else. Would they have ways to look for that when they're processing the crime scene, Morgan? Like, what would they be looking for in that regard?
It's without video surveillance nowadays, it's hard to go into a crime scene knowing how many people you're looking for, which is like we've talked about why we do what we do in a systematic way every time to ensure we don't leave things behind. It's very, very much routine practices when you get inside, but to know if there was more than one by just looking at the crime scene itself, that would be difficult to decide.
Honestly, does this sheriff's department, and I'm asking this with a wholehearted, with a wholehearted, no, that's not the right phrase. I'm wholeheartedly asking this. Do they not have a public information officer? Or is it the sheriff / public information officer / white wall tire salesman / paintball CO2 cartridge refueler?
As far as there being one, or I think I heard on the news today that someone was saying that they thought a crime of opportunity. And all of my career, I don't know a time when someone would break into a house where they don't know who's on the other side, in the sense of, and then we're going to abduct someone and keep a lady with me. You'd have to be prepared for that. You have to take someone that's almost immobile to your home or wherever you're going to keep them. Like that's
yeah, I forgot. He's on car washing duty because he told the sheriff his shirt looked like shit.
Planning. I don't think it's crime of opportunity where you broke in for a burglary and then you took an 84-year-old woman with you. I just don't think that's the case.
Mm-hmm. Do you think there may have been someone at the back door, Maureen? Or when you said you thought there might be two people, what do you mean?
Well, I think it's likely that someone may have been driving a vehicle, and I think it may have been pulled up into the driveway. I think they may have approached the house with no headlights on, pulled into the driveway, got into the circle.
Look, Sheriff, I'm just saying, Coke is better than Pepsi. Hey, I got some bad news for you. You're the new landscaper.
Well, the first part of that.
How dare you go against Pepsi?
Circle drive out of view of that camera or of the front door, and then had that guy who I am convinced was stoned walk up there. But I think he was just trying to, he looked like he was surprised with that camera. But I don't know, why would he even walk up to that front door unless he thought it was open or he had a key? Because when you have a burglar door like that, they're almost impossible. They're impossible to open just, with brute force. And secondly, they have that very thick front oak door that's like a Spanish style. So my only thing with the front door is was he just checking it out to see what the deal was? He hired by someone who said, "Hey, go up to the front door and see if the front door is open or whatever." But the fact that we've heard in a press release that the back door was wide open, the back door was ajar in some way, shape, or form, and the back door is a door that could be breached.
I don't think we actually, sorry to interrupt you. I don't think we know that for sure, actually. And it's confusing because there's been so much different reporting.
Why wouldn't it be confusing?
I think there was someone reporting that about the back door.
We need to get a tent on this circus on the ASAP.
But they never confirmed it. We don't know for sure that the back door was open.
They have a sergeant who's been there for 26 years, not in the field working this case, but taking reports that somebody's guppy was taken out of their truck when they were at the Dairy Queen and they want their guppy back.
But fair enough. But we do know that the back door was far easier to get in than the front door.
Yeah.
There's just no question. Could she have left the screen door open? Maybe. I don't think so. If I'm an old lady living alone, the doors are locked. But could both doors be unlocked? I don't think so.
What do you think, Morgan?
Why couldn't both doors be unlocked?
With all the scenes you've seen.
What, the front door and back door, like why they would have gone in, or if you think there's two people.
Or how they may have gotten in. I mean, Because it doesn't seem like they got in through the front door, maybe left through the front door with the blood, but.
Yeah, that's why I don't think this is just a random crime of opportunity where someone walked up, checked a door, wiggled a few windows. I don't think that's the case.
Simply Real says back door open, back door closed, glove inside, no glove inside. Family ruled out. No one's been ruled out. Which is it changes by the day. Snip, snap, snip, snap.
Case. I think there was intent here. I think there was a plan. I think they knew means of access to get in. I just think it's too far-fetched to think that someone just was able to pop open a back door or by chance her back door was open and someone was at the front door. It could be. I've worked a lot of crime scene in my days, but I think there's probably reason to believe that this somehow was planned in some way, whether she was a target because she was a little old lady that they've seen, at her house.
I'll have a list tomorrow because something's they're gonna find some sort of like nuclear bomb in the desert or something, and then that's gonna be a suspect. And then they're gonna rule that out, detain it.
House alone and never seen any other family members living there, and maybe that's the crime of opportunity. But I think there was some planning that went into that day.
There's been a lot of talk, especially on like Twitter, people shocked that there was a pizza delivery guy that went up to the front door. The pool guy, I think, has come twice. There was a landscaper there today. Does that surprise you that these people are allowed to just walk onto the property? Or I guess if it's not a crime scene, is it just, I guess they're not worried about it? When I mean not a crime scene, I mean it's not like taped off anymore.
Yeah, it barely, obviously it's giving you the vibe that it's broken down and that they've gotten everything that they need and they're done. But that's, it'll pose problems later. If you're literally going to a crime scene and you're processing it after multiple people are seen on video by your news cameras, dropping off pizza, walking through the backyard, doing landscaping. What if a landscaper came across a glove days later? It potentially is going to pose some questions down the road. I think you're seeing them go back multiple times on rollbacks because there is more information coming out. And so then they're popping back over and trying to get more, and then popping back over and trying to get more. I think you're seeing the tents go up because we do that whenever there's media around. We're trying to block what we're investigating because obviously it's really easy for you guys to zoom in and figure out what we're doing, that information leaked to the public. So the tents up and things like that, I think, are just trying to obviously give them some privacy for their investigation. But I think it's all those follow-ups that they're just having more and more questions about as more and more information comes out. But Maureen's 100% right. It's difficult to man a house like that for multiple days, and in this instance, weeks. But if that's where you're at, that's what you got to do. I think initially, that it was probably more presumed to be missing person with a little, then started rolling into foul play, which is why I think it happened quickly. They scooped up the evidence they needed. They cleared it. They thought they were done. And then as they get video and things, that's why you just keep rolling back. That's what's happening.
As always, I really appreciate Maureen for taking the time to talk with me, and it was great to get Morgan on the show also. She's going to be hopefully a regular, awesome with her expertise in the forensic field. So I'll stay on it. I'm outside Nancy's house now. Keep you guys posted on everything. Was super interested to get that new reporting today.
Let's see if this case goes cold because of nanos. If it's solved, it won't be because of nano. Yes, I could see that. All right, well, they're not actually going to find a nuclear bomb. It was just hyperbole. I was just kidding. How about that tent that popped up day 11? I think that was just they popped it. They popped it up and then they popped it down and popped up, down, in, out, over, back. 20 pairs of gloves. This glove, that glove. I think we have another one to watch, but let me. Hold on here. Over, under, over. Bingo. I think that's probably the case. I don't think that he's going to resign. I don't think that he's going to give in, but I don't think that he will be able to get reelected, probably. Because even before this, he was having problems.
Has her or knows where she is. That it's never too late. And you're not lost or alone. And it is never too late to do the right thing.
A direct and deeply emotional message to the kidnapper of her mom. Savannah Guthrie releasing a heart.
Yeah, I think they can, but I doubt that they would do that in the middle of this. That would be rough, I think.
Breaking new video. It is now day 16 in the
Jen P773 says, last night I thought your brain was going to explode watching this mess. Not just last night, but the night before, and then the one where all that SWAT activity was going on.
Desperate search for 80.
Yeah, every day it's just worse and worse and worse and worse.
4-year-old Nancy Guthrie, no arrest, no clear suspect, and swirling, conflicting reports about what may have motivated her abduction from her home on February 1st. And we just got new information in about the clothing that armed, masked person was wearing on Nancy Guthrie's door. And this new information could be huge in solving this case. We're on the case, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart.
And let's see what Stewie has to say here. She really does. Savannah's like, it's so funny. I would have never known her name when I first heard that Savannah Guthrie's mother, Miss Nancy, had gone missing. And everybody's like, well, you know who that is, don't you? And I was like, I really don't. And then I looked her up and I was like, oh yeah, I know who that is. I've watched her for a long time. I just didn't know. I knew her name was Savannah. I didn't know her full name, and I'd seen her for years.
Hey guys, real quick before we start this episode of On the Case, one of the most watched shows on YouTube, I want to talk about our partner and sponsor, Morgan & Morgan, America's largest personal injury law firm. They're a firm with more than 1,000 insurance. Who would abduct an 84-year-old woman battling serious health issues, a woman who depends on daily medication to survive? I want to show you what the Pima County Sheriff's Department just posted Monday afternoon. We don't have suspects in this case, but now for the first time, the sheriff is ruling people out. The sheriff writes, quote, to be clear, the Guthrie family, to include all siblings and spouses, has been cleared as possible suspects in this case.
No way.
The family has been nothing but cooperative and gracious and are victims in this case. The sheriff, Chris Nanos, goes on to say, quote, to suggest otherwise is not only wrong, it's cruel. The Guthrie family are victims, plain and simple. Please, I'm begging you, the media, to honor your profession and report with some sense of compassion and professionalism.
You're completely right about this. None of them will recover from this. I mean, even if there is a final conclusion, you know, the fear, the angst, the paranoia, but you know, at some point, you just want to know what happened. And that's about as good as it might get, honestly. And I say that with all sincerity and with all due respect. You just want to know what happened, and you want to be able to be reunited with your loved one, however that happens, whether she's still with us or not. They deserve some clarity. They deserve some peace. They deserve answers. and they deserve justice. And yeah. You know, I know I make light of a lot of things during the investigation, but at the heart of this is Miss Nancy, an 84-year-old woman who I just, you know, it's just unfathomable to me that anybody could be that cruel, that hard up for money, or, you know, it's just, it makes no, I'd rather eat out of a garbage can than try and do that to anybody, let alone an elderly lady. They should assign nanos to organize a 2-car parade, keep him occupied. He wouldn't know which one to put in front, Pop. Not at this point. I was even laying off the dude. But like this thing today, you know, it was like 2 days ago, he just said, I can't roll anybody out. Well, what changed from, why can't he say, okay, my question is, why can't he say what changed from, was it Friday or Saturday to today? What changed? How was he able to rule them out with such a definitive statement?
Early on in this investigation, there were reports that Nancy Guthrie's son-in-law may be a prime suspect in this case because it was believed that he is the last person to see Nancy Guthrie before she was taken from her home. It's been reported that he was the one who drove Nancy Guthrie back to her house. Now, previously, the sheriff said that no one would be cleared until an arrest had been made in this case. It's unclear what changed that and what prompted him to make this statement.
I already said that. Sharon, pray she is found. I do believe she's still alive. You know what? And there's nothing wrong with that, because in these situations, all you have is hope. All you have is hope. At this point, that's it. There's nothing more. You can have nothing else.
But now,
everything else has been taken. Everything has been taken.
Several theories that have been speculated online. And one of them is that whoever took Nancy, that wasn't the intent when they entered her home. That the intent was actually to burglarize it, to steal stuff. Then something happened and they were forced to take Nancy Guthrie. Now, law enforcement, they have not come out and officially shared what they think the intent was of the person or people who took Nancy Guthrie. And it's unclear if they even know that at this point, at least from what they're saying to us officially. Now, there is a media report, though, that's getting a lot of attention, and it's getting pushback from law enforcement, and it claims that Nancy Guthrie is the victim of what was supposed to be a burglary at her home. We will dive into that new report in just a moment. But before we do that, I want to talk about what Savannah Guthrie posted on her Instagram Sunday night. It is a new video. It is raw. It is emotional. And much of her message is to her mom's kidnapper.
I wanted to come on, and it's been 2 weeks since our mom was taken, and I just wanted to come on and say that we still have hope, and we still believe. And I wanted to say to whoever has her or knows where she is, that it's never too late. And
no, well, and Jason says, I asked the interview room last night if Ellie knows for sure Nancy returned. would Ellie tell us? I don't believe that they would. And no, we don't know that. But also, I mean, this could have possible staging. I mean, I don't know. It's so weird.
You're not lost or alone. And it is never too late to do the
Look, as somebody, I'm not making this about me because it's not about me, but as somebody, and a lot of you have lost your mothers over the years. And when you have a deep affection and a good relationship with your mother, and you have that tight knit, because I know that they were raised by themselves, or she raised her children by themselves for a lot of their life. That's a connection that when it's taken away, and when it's taken away unnaturally, you can deal with somebody passing from old age or a sickness. It's devastating still. It still hurts. It will always hurt. But when somebody unnaturally takes your mother, it leaves a hole in you that you can never fill. You can try, but it's impossible. I've had 30 something years of it, and it's just not something that you can ever fix. She will always carry this. If her mother is not returned safely, she will never be able to fill that void of her mother being taken from her unnaturally. Like I said, people die of diseases, people die of cancer. That's just so horrible to have to go through. But that's kind of part of life in a way. Those things are just mostly unavoidable. This is so unavoidable because somebody has unnaturally severed this bond. And I think that's really where she's coming from. And not just her. I know that she's the person in charge of, or the not person in charge, but she's the head of the family publicly. And that's a lot to carry too.
right thing. And we are here.
Of course.
We believe.
Absolutely. Losing your mother, even naturally, is devastating.
And we believe in the essential goodness of every human being. And it's never too late.
And you just can see, you don't have to be a body language expert to see this, but just how exhausted, drained, and emotional Savannah Guthrie looks. And it is understandable when you think of what her family is going through right now. It is clear that this family continues to hold on to hope that Nancy will come home.
I think it could.
This newest message, it seems raw, it seems unscripted, and it's certainly a different tone from her last video that you might remember. It came in around the time of a deadline that was included in an alleged ransom note sent to media outlets like TMZ. This was it.
Hi there, everybody. I wanted to come on and just share a few thoughts as we enter into another week of this nightmare. I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for all of the prayers and the love that we have felt, my sister and brother and I, and that our mom has felt. Because we believe that somehow, some way, she is feeling these prayers and that God is lifting her even in this moment and in this darkest place. We believe our mom is still out there. We need your help. Law enforcement is working tirelessly around the clock, trying to bring her home, trying to find her. She was taken and we don't know where. And we need your help. So I'm coming on just to ask you, not just for your prayers, but no matter where you are, even if you're far from Tucson, if you see anything, if you hear anything, if there's anything at all that seems strange to you, that you report to law enforcement. We are at an hour of desperation, and we need your help.
For as public as this case has been, it is unclear what the Guthrie family knows and if they know of any possible leads that law enforcement is following. And it's also unclear what investigators closest to this case are following right now. Of course, we've heard from the sheriff, but other than that, there's still a lot that we don't know when it comes to the inner circle of this investigation. But we are learning about a potential clue that has to do with the person seen wearing a mask, a jacket, gloves, and a backpack on Nancy Guthrie's front steps around the time she vanished. The Pima County Sheriff says the clothing that you see on the person in that video, they believe that it was possibly bought at Walmart. Now, these clothes are not exclusively available at Walmart. They're calling this a possibility. But when you say Walmart, you add that clothing to the backpack that the FBI says is one exclusively sold at Walmart, a 25-liter Ozark Trail hiker pack backpack. And again, the only place you can get it is Walmart. Then you have Fox News that came out with a report saying that the holster that you see on the man's waist, that appears to be a holster. It goes for $10, so it's pretty cheap. And it's sold at some Walmarts. And they found it in stock at 5 Walmarts in the Tucson area. So we'll see how that factors into trying to identify if the person we see in that video, did they buy these clothes and that backpack relatively recently, and that can help them track down who that person is. Now, let's get to this new report that came in that is getting a lot of attention. It's from the CBS.
Yeah, and people wonder why, there are certain people out there that go, well, why does this case get so much attention? Well, obviously, I think because of a bit of Savannah's fame, but I mean, at the core of it is everybody kind of mirrors this to their grandmother, their mother, somebody who they just cherish. And, like my grandmother would be completely defenseless, completely, in a situation like this. And it's devastating to think about.
Affiliate in Phoenix, a reporter, Brianna Whitney, who is a true crime reporter there. She hosts a series called True Crime Arizona. She put out a story saying that she has an inside source telling her that law enforcement believe that Nancy Guthrie is the victim of a burglary gone wrong. And the intent of the person or people who went into her home, it wasn't to take Nancy Guthrie, it was to steal things, but something must have happened inside of the house that made her the victim of a botched burglary. This would be instead of a plan for them to show up and kidnap Nancy Guthrie all along. Now, that report, it's being disputed today by the Pima County Sheriff to an extent. This is what the sheriff told us. PCSD, Pima County Sheriff's Department, has never stated that this was a burglary gone wrong. Any reports indicating otherwise are inaccurate. This remains a very active investigation. Now, look, if you want to read into that statement a little bit more, it is pushing back on the report, and it's pushing back on the department ever stating that this was a burglary gone wrong, and to suggest that, they say, would be inaccurate, opposed to them saying the story itself is incorrect. Now, the FBI also spoke to Fox News, who reached out for comment, and the FBI said that they don't know where that story came from. So it appears the Bureau is also pushing back a bit as well.
Wow.
Now, some experts have suggested what that local news report out of Arizona is claiming, that whoever entered Nancy's home, they didn't intend to take her, but something must have happened inside and it resorted to that.
Yeah, look, whoever's responsible for this, when they see her videos, I just don't think that they care. I don't think that they can be reached.
Some of the reasons they point to that, well, you think of the images like this one. This one was put out by TMZ. This is of a suspicious person caught on camera in the weeks surrounding Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. And there have been several of these that have been posted on social media, and many of them have nothing to do with the Guthrie case. In this one, we see a man on January 23rd walking backwards intentionally on the front steps of a house 6.5 miles from Nancy Guthrie's home. TMZ blurred the man's face, but they say that he has facial hair, and it's similar to the man you see in the surveillance video that was released by the FBI from Nancy Guthrie's house. Now, TMZ says that the FBI is following this as a lead, but it's unclear, again, if it has anything to do with the Guthrie case. This video was taken at around 5 o'clock in the morning, and then apparently a dog barks and the man takes off running. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is that Nancy Guthrie, based off the timeline given to us, around 2 o'clock in the morning, 2:30, her pacemaker disconnects from her iPhone. So this apparently happened in the early hours of the morning. And we're just seeing videos where you see other examples of people showing up on the doorsteps of folks in Tucson, Arizona in the early hours of the morning. Now, on top of that, we've had experts talk to us about how when it comes to kidnappings, an 84-year-old woman with health issues needing medication daily is just a very vulnerable target that kidnappers often do not target for ransom. So that could potentially...
I'm sorry there. I don't know what you got banned for, but I was looking for you earlier. I needed you to certify, but another day.
Potentially lead you in the direction of the...
I'm glad that you got to hang out with your gerbil.
Speculation that this was a burglary gone wrong. But on the other hand, we have talked to law enforcement experts who say it's very rare for a home burglary to happen in the middle of the night because that's when people are home and they're sleeping. And if you were to go into somebody's house and you want to take stuff, having a confrontation with a person who may wake up is the last thing you want in that situation.
A big time.
It's typically commercial.
They bark when somebody's across the street.
Buildings that become targets at night of burglars. And when you look at the suspicious person on Nancy Guthrie's front steps, it does appear that backpack is full as they approach the door, which is another thing that you would not expect from someone who is planning to take items from a home.
Well, we don't know if you missed one or not.
But again, that CBS affiliate in Phoenix says their inside sources are telling them that this was a burglary that went very wrong. And then you have the Pima County Sheriff pushing back on that report. So let's talk a little bit more about the evidence that we know about in this case. We just talked about that information coming in about Walmart and where the clothes potentially could have been bought that we see on that person on Nancy Guthrie's front steps. We're also still waiting for this DNA to come back related to a glove that was found about 2 miles from Nancy Guthrie's home. The FBI sent us a statement that says the glove that was found, it was found in a field on the side.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Unless the backpack have a duffel bag in it, why would somebody have a duffel bag in a backpack? I don't know.
Of a road. The agents say as they searched the miles surrounding Nancy's home, they found 16 gloves. I did find it interesting that they said that the majority of the gloves were from searchers who had just thrown them on the ground. But then there's one.
Why would there be a tarp?
Glove they found that seems to be offering at least a glimmer of hope in this case. That glove, quote, this is from the FBI, appears to match the gloves of the subject in the surveillance video. And when you hear that line, it certainly grabs your attention. The
ruled in, ruled out, not ruled in, not ruled out. tape up, tape down, house cleared, house not cleared, backpack inside of a backpack, gloves inside of gloves. Where does the madness end?
FBI says the Pima County Sheriff's Department sent the glove to a private lab that it uses in Florida. It was sent on Thursday last week. It was tested on Friday last week. Then preliminary results came back on Saturday. And now the FBI is waiting for quality control and official confirmation. And when that comes back, the FBI says it will then put the DNA profile into CODIS, which is their national DNA database. And if the DNA is of a person who's had any sort of previous run-in with the law, it should have a match. That database is full of people who have been convicted of crimes, arrested, or detained. Now, the FBI has not gone into more detail on whether there's anything specific that brings that glove to Nancy Guthrie's home beyond the fact that it looks like the one worn in the video by that masked, armed individual. And we should be clear that it is possible that the glove was just the result of someone glittering. And also beyond that, even if there's a match in CODIS, it was brought up that, well, that could just mean that there was someone with a criminal record who was roughly 2 miles from Nancy Guthrie's home at some point. It may not be connected to this case, but you have to admit it's a clue that could mean something in this investigation now as we enter week 3. It does appear this glove,
detained, not detained,
is a commonly used nitrile glove that's then put over another glove. When you look at that video, we have not heard from the FBI whether they found Nancy Guthrie's DNA on the glove. Now, we do know that investigators found DNA other than Nancy's, her family, or people close to her at her house, but it's unclear who that belongs to. It's also unclear if it is someone who entered her home with bad intentions, or maybe it's someone who was at her house to help. Maybe it was hired help like a gardener or a pool person who reportedly submitted DNA samples. Now, the sheriff has not unveiled what evidence they found inside Nancy Guthrie's home.
Who knows what's in the backpack? I mean, it could be a Lunchable for all we know. A couple of them, the pizza ones, cheese, not pepperoni.
We do know that there was blood on the front steps, and that blood came back to match Nancy Guthrie, as we see it here in this video from News Nation. The sheriff has also said that law enforcement don't have suspects in this case, but he did have an interesting line that I think we need to talk about, that he said after the raid of a home about 2 miles from Nancy's house on Friday night, there was also that dramatic traffic stop. There was a man who was detained and released, and the sheriff told media outlets that the person pulled over in a traffic stop at a Culver's was a person of interest in this case. He first said it to Fox News, but that person has been released. Now, the CBS affiliate in Phoenix is reporting that DNA is being tested from that vehicle. Now, that raid moved quickly on Friday night. We saw a SWAT team move in. There was a federal search warrant of the home, which was in an upscale neighborhood a couple miles from Nancy Guthrie's house. NBC News, though, is reporting that authorities are leaning away from anyone who has been detained at this point as potential suspects.
Oh, God.
I just wanted to come on and say that we still have hope. And we still believe.
Now, it does appear in Savannah's new video that she is holding on to hope that her mom is still out there and this story could finally have a happy ending after such a nightmare. The sheriff told the New York Times that the investigation will continue no matter what. And he said this, and this was the line that did get a bit of attention over the weekend when it comes to bringing this case to an end. Quote, maybe it's an hour from now, maybe it's weeks or months or years from now, but we won't quit. We're going to find Nancy. We're going to find this guy. That's Sheriff Chris Nanos to the New York Times. Now, another development that happened today that I think we should talk about, TMZ continues to say that they're receiving emails from someone who claims to know where Nancy Guthrie is and who took her. Now, it is unclear if these emails are real.
So here's another sick aspect of this case with this whole TMZ aspect. You have ransoms that have come and gone. Now you have somebody's like, I can give you information, but I don't think I'll get paid. It's like, dude, frig off.
But Harvey Levin from TMZ said today they received a new letter from this person who's been demanding payment to provide information. This person has emailed
They need to stop reporting. Personally, I think they need to just stop reporting it. But there's no chance that that'll happen because that's what TMZ does.
3 times, initially asking for 1 Bitcoin for the information they say they have, according to TMZ. Today's letter reportedly said, quote, "I know what I saw 5 days ago south of the border, and I was told to shut up." So
I'm not saying that they weren't receiving these letters. That's not what I'm implying at all. What I am implying is that they just need to hand this stuff over. And instead of Harvey going, "Okay, guys, I got another letter, and here I am. This is the People's Court, and today we're having our friend who popped a hole in his waterbed sue his buddy because he's overweight and he belly flopped on it and refuses to pay for the damage." Stick to that, Harv.
I know who he is, and that was definitely Nancy with them, end quote. Now, the person sending these emails, they appear to be different from whoever was behind those 2 alleged ransom notes that TMZ and local television stations in Tucson received, demanding Bitcoin with 2 deadlines that have since passed. It's unclear how serious the FBI is taking this person who's continuing to email TMZ. Now, the FBI is offering $100,000 for information that leads to Nancy Guthrie or the person or people who took her from her home on February 1st. If you have information on Nancy Guthrie, you can contact the Pima County Sheriff at 520-351-4900. You can also contact the FBI. Their number is 1-800-CALL-FBI or go to tips.fbi.gov. Join us now to talk more about this case, retired FBI Special Agent Greg Rogers. Thank you for being with us here on Law and Crime.
I've seen this guy before. I think I met him in Seattle at a grunge band concert. Either that or he's cousins with the Unabomber.
This debate today, after this report came out of Arizona by a television station, that they have a source saying that the theory is that this was a botched burglary and Nancy Guthrie was not initially a target. The sheriff and the FBI, they seem to be pushing back on that a little bit. What do you make based off what we know at this point about what potentially happened here?
I sort of discredit the botched burglary theory myself for reasons being that when you
well, I don't. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. And I'm fine being wrong. Not a baddie. Look at those cowboy hats. He's got a cowboy hat rack. A hat rack for cowboy hats. He's got multiple cowboy hats.
It was even though I think it's obvious from the video, Jan, that the individual that approached the front door made numerous mistakes, had really poor preoperative planning. But your average, a burglary is kicking in a door, stealing. What is it they were going to take? I mean, does the individual that's giving that tip saying that they believe there was
Dubs in the chat for the cowboy hats. I love a good cowboy hat.
something really valuable in the Guthrie home?
I need a cowboy.
That's just
I've had a cowboy hat before.
strange
I don't know what happened to it. I need to get one again though.
neighborhood to do like a burglary. They weren't going to just go in there and steal TVs and things like that. So I really doubt that. I don't think that's a viable theory. And burglars don't traditionally kidnap the people who are in the residence. I mean, they tragically, and I don't mean to sound cynical, but most burglars are just going to incapacitate the person that's in the residence.
I saw 3 TVs on the side of the road today. There's no way. Nobody cares about TVs.
Harm them, leave them there.
And it's not like, this is what I don't understand. it's not as though they go, okay, we're going in there to it's like a botched robbery. Like, okay, maybe there's a safe in the house. That's possible. Some people keep safes in the house, and maybe they had some inside information that there was a safe in the house. It goes wrong, and Miss Nancy becomes incapacitated or dies. They don't want to leave her body there because bodies tell stories. It doesn't have to be a kidnapping.
I mean, they don't have any interest in taking a.
Sometimes people just take the body to dump because they go, well, we can't leave the body here because I just had a struggle with her.
A person with them. They've got something they want to steal. They steal it and they leave.
Yeah, and I know this television station, they just put out a statement saying they stand by their reporting. So we'll see. It's one of those things, like, we'll see when this all shakes out,
right,
like what actually it is, and we can only know so much from the outside. We've had experts who have said, and people may not realize this, that a home burglary typically doesn't happen at night because people are at home and they're
right,
sleeping. And the last thing you want, if you want to steal stuff, is to have a confrontation with a person in a home.
exactly.
Where you see some of the commercial buildings are targets. But when I hear that, I also wonder, especially because we've heard, and even, in talking now, like, this guy made a lot of mistakes when he showed up at the door. Like, he didn't look like he was this sophisticated criminal mastermind, at least on the surface. Like, how often do people like that know that, though, and think that through and be like, well, there's probably someone in the house sleeping?
Unfortunately, there are professionals that that's what they do. They go
Right.
from city to city, they burglarize, and then they move on. And they're actually very good at what they do. And it's all just a bet. But I mean, the bet is, it's pretty obvious. The chances of someone being home at that hour are pretty good. If you just do a little bit of surveillance, you would know when she wasn't there. I mean, it'd be easy to watch her drive away, and then you just go in and, take whatever it is you're going to take. There weren't a lot of things taken from the residence, it's my understanding. So it's
He doesn't know that. Yeah, it's Waylon Jennings.
unless there was something that
Okie from Muskogee.
no one knows about, some real valuable item that maybe she had, or a safe or something like that, and that was all they took, that'd be one thing. But it's the home wasn't burglarized in any sort of traditional burglary fashion. There were a lot of very valuable items still there, and they were there. These guys were in that residence for 40 some minutes.
Right.
I mean, so they were there a long time. They could have cleaned house if they wanted to, if that was the intent.
Or maybe cleaned up a crime scene.
Right. You have the timeline where I think it's a little after 1 o'clock in the morning, 1:30, where the doorbell camera disconnects. And then at 40 minutes later or so, her pacemaker disconnects from the iPhone. The other piece of new news coming in, because we knew that the backpack was one that is exclusively sold at Walmart.
Right.
The type that he has. It's the only place you can get it. But now the sheriff says the clothing that this person was wearing, and I wonder if this includes the mask as well. If that's like not just a beanie that you cut holes in, but it's an actual, you wonder how many people in Tucson, Arizona are buying those with, how the weather is. It's not like he's in, Denver or something like that, but the fact that it's a possibility that these are all Walmart items, what could that mean to this investigation?
Oh, that's huge. That's we have solved a number of cases. The most important one that I can recall, we solved a serial killer murder case, Joseph Duncan in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. He'd killed a family and killed a number of children on a countrywide spree. And it was because he left some items at one of the residences where the UPC numbers were tracked back to a Home Depot. And then once you figure out which location they used, there's video cams, you've got, you're running receipts, seeing if they used a credit card. You can literally track who purchased that specific item. The inventory systems at Walmart's and, any, Home Depots, those sorts of things are very, very detailed. So you can track it right down to who purchased it. And if they didn't use a card, if they were being careful and they were, trying to be careful and they were using cash, you can still detail exactly when that item was sold, and you can look at the video cams. And we've solved a number of cases that way. That's a very, very important finding. I'm hopeful that that's going to be really helpful.
Yeah, me too. And I'm because I know when the backpack story came out, you look at that and you're like, well, when was that backpack purchased? Like, how likely is it that, it could be a backpack that was bought years ago? I don't know how long it's only been available at Walmart, but then it's like the clothes as well.
The backpack's kind of growing on me a little bit.
And it's like, if that all
$11
lines up that this one person bought these clothes, like that could be huge to this.
It looks brand new.
Case. I know yesterday another kind of,
I can't imagine an $11 backpack holding up for years.
Big clue that came out, or at least it seems like that.
$10 backpack holding up for years.
On the surface to us on the outside is this glove.
Right.
And they found a glove about 2 miles from the house. They say, and the line that gets everybody's attention is that it appears
I bought this $10 backpack in 1972
to be the glove that, matches what we see in the person on the front steps. Now, does that just mean it's like a kind of like a latex style glove? I mean, anybody could have those, but based off what we know about it, the DNA testing, what can we expect if that comes back as a profile that they can put into CODIS, that database?
Oh, that may
I'm more of a JanSport kind of guy.
be the
And I used to have JanSport and Trapper Keepers all day.
biggest lead we have right now. If that's actually the glove.
Dubs in the chat for Trapper Keepers and JanSport backpacks.
I can assure you people are working 24/7. They've identified the DNA already. And so they'll run that through CODIS. Unfortunately, what most people don't realize is unless you have a criminal history, or if you've been in the military, or if you've been a federal agent, your DNA is available because you've been tested. But it's the vast majority of the American public hasn't been. So they'll be running, if he's not in CODIS, they're going to be running that through historical databases. We just, another case that was just solved that way was the Kohlberger case in Idaho, where he killed those kids at the university in Moscow. And that case was made by DNA. He left a knife sheath in that had his father's DNA on it. That was tracked through a historical database. And then of course we find out that Brian Kohlberger's a student, at a university 10 miles away.
They keep going with this Kohlberger thing.
So it's cases are solved that way. So I'm really hoping that those were the actual gloves. We'll find out. But again, that goes to show, you can make so many determinations based on the sophistication and the talent of the individual, whoever your subject is, based on their pre-operation and post-operation planning. And his pre-operation planning was terrible. He wears a backpack with reflective gear all over it. He doesn't come with anything to defeat the ring camera, even though he's got a backpack on. He could have had duct tape or spray paint. He could have defeated that camera in a second. Instead, he grabs a bush.
Walmart probably has best surveillance on the planet. Yeah, they watch people steal all the time. I one time I saw a guy walk out with a pool. It was enormous. I'm sure they got it all on camera.
Shows a real deficit of pre-planning, but post-op planning to throw your gloves, which, I've seen things like that in a number of cases, but why are you going to do that? Why are you going to, it makes.
Yeah. And he had it on the flat cart too. When he pushed it out, it was unbelievable.
Makes you think about the intellect of the individual you're working, because you could take those gloves with you to a dumpster, 100 miles away, or you could burn them. You could, but just to throw them and leave them somewhere again really makes you wonder about how savvy the person is that you're working.
Yeah, and just on that, like, even and if those are the gloves, and it's like after all of this, that's what they would do. It almost makes me like wonder if that's actually how it's going to be, because it almost just seems like, for as unintelligent they may appear on camera, like to just ditch your gloves about 2 miles from Nancy Guthrie's home. It's like
you
we'll
can't
see
explain that.
You can't explain it. If that's actually what happens, and we'll see. Even with that though, because you do look at the camera. I also think of like his ski mask, and it's like a burglar in a comedy movie would wear that ski mask. I mean, it shows a pretty good amount of his face, as opposed to like some of the other options out there that will cover your mouth and the eyes will not be as it was just as if it was like, why would you, and I hope it helps lead to him. I'm happy he did, but it just seems like a very dumb mask to wear if you were going to go inside, someone's home. With that, knowing it's
not as dumb as that sweater. That sweater looks exactly like the same material that his dumb mask was made out of.
And, we're now entering the 3rd week of this.
Look at that.
With all the mistakes that you see on camera. Are you surprised that this case isn't solved yet?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I really am. And again, not wanting to sound cynical, but time is just so much of the essence, considering her health and other
it's making me itch. Just look at it.
Other issues. But I think during the first week, I sort of was of the opinion that they're just being very careful because there's these ransom letters. They're doing everything they can do to verify the, authenticity of those, or if they're dealing with a real person. But the fact that there were there doesn't seem to have been any real solid verification of proof of life. There's not photos. They're not dealing personally with a kidnapper. That's very, very concerning. And I think it's telling.
The guy on the left is grossing me out. I'm gonna move to let me move to the right side of the screen.
Also, in the way that the family now and the videos that they're putting out, and I can assure you those aren't done without a whole lot of planning and talking to profilers and other things about what should be said in these videos. They've gone from talking directly to a kidnapper to talking to the public. And those are radically different things.
Because we've seen, and I was saying beforehand, like, you don't have to be an expert in body language to just know what Savannah got. No one knows what she's going through, but to understand how distraught she is, like, that is incredibly real. And it's a nightmare that nobody would want to go through. But when you look at the messaging where, it was the family together really trying to humanize her, the first couple of videos she posted, then you had the one around the deadline related to that alleged ransom note, where it was more this call out to the public. And saying, if you see something, say something. And it was almost the tone there was more of like the Savannah Guthrie from the Today Show that we all know. But then this one last night, where she's saying you can do the right thing. Like, she is speaking to someone, either the person who, kidnapped her mom, or someone who knows who did it, whoever it may be. Like, behind the scenes, for as authentic as videos like that look, like, what is the advice that the FBI can give a family member in that type of situation?
We have very talented
psychological
profilers that are working on this case. They're there, and those messages are specifically directed, and the language in them that is used is very well thought out. I mean, there is those messages just aren't, those aren't off the cuff. There's reasoning behind each one. I
know, dude. His vest. That vest is bae.
I wouldn't be surprised if this one had a little bit to do with the individual that keeps sending messages and email, to media outlets saying he knows who did it. I'm very suspicious of that, because that individual has had numerous occasions to really prove his veracity and hasn't done so. And by that, I mean, every time that the Bureau and the Pima County Sheriff's Office has detained anyone for questioning, that person could easily step up and say, that's not him. You got the wrong person. You'd be knocking it out of the park. You would be really proving your veracity, and because you're saying you know who it is, but that's not happening. So, yeah.
I know in the most recent, because TMZ today said they got another, I think it's the fourth message now from this person, and it's very different the way that person, it's very different how that person is acting. The fourth email they get today from someone saying it's not that they kidnapped Nancy Guthrie, but they know. And there's part of it you look at and you think that it's just a very different approach compared to the initial email, which was, I want the money. And then there's no response whatsoever. But in these emails, it just got me thinking, they talked about over the border and talking about Mexico. And in a past job, I drove through Nogales, like that entryway just south of Tucson. And anybody who's ever driven across the border, like, it's a lot easier to go into Mexico than the process of answering questions, on your way back. It's just, they're not checking vehicles. They're kind of just waving you over. It's like going through a toll. How likely is it that the FBI is working with Mexican authorities just to keep tabs on whether anything is popping up that someone, especially after this video was put out of the person on the front steps, may have booked it across the border in hopes that that could cover their tracks a little bit better?
Right. No, I can assure you that the federales, the Mexican federal police, our counterparts, have been involved in this case from the get-go.
Yes.
I mean, literally from the very beginning, because
that's exactly
just because of the proximity, how close Tucson is to the border. And again, as you've said, it's very easy to drive into Nogales. That's not, but there are cameras and there are plus I can assure you from working years of cartel cases, the Mexican federal police have very close contact with the cartels. They have spoken with them about this, because if she were in Mexico, especially if she were in the Nogales area, the New Generation cartel is very active there. They would know. Nothing goes on in cartel territory that they don't know about. And I'm not saying, I don't believe at all that this had anything to do with the cartels. I'm just saying they would know about it. And the Mexican federal police have been speaking with them about it, because nothing happens in an area they dominate that they don't know about.
Because I would wonder too, like, just on because I initially had that thought, just as kind of the, non-law enforcement person, just kind of watching this case and seeing how close it is to the border. And you're like, is this a cartel thing? But then you think about it, it's like, if you're in the business of drugs, like, the last thing you would want to do is bring this type of attention on yourself, right? Is that like a fair way to think of, like, taking an 84-year-old woman
to the cartel? That's literally pocket change. I mean, this is not a, people talk all the time about the kidnappings that are cartel related in Mexico, but those have as much to do with politics as they have to do with, that's not a real money-making part of their business. They may kidnap a member of a family of someone who's trying to prosecute them, or of a politician that they want him to do certain things, just to teach them a lesson. So the cartels have not been coming into the United States and kidnapping prominent figures for
I don't think,
$6
I think
million.
most people don't
That's,
think it's
again,
cartel.
that's insignificant
I mean, I've never really even considered it, but
amount of money to them, and they don't want that kind of attention. They're already
Right.
getting much more attention under the current administration than they want. So to do something like this would make no sense.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, it's something I think for a lot of us just on the outside, when you see, you just think of the border and, certainly some of the activity in Mexico, but, to your point, it just doesn't seem to make sense on that sense. A lot of
Right.
questions unanswered now. Entering the third week of this case, you still hope that there's a happy ending here in some ways. Greg Rogers, retired FBI special agent. Great to have you on Law and Crime. Thanks for being with us.
My pleasure. Thanks.
his pleasure. Thanks, buddy. And there it was, Waylon Jennings weighing in on the Nancy Guthrie case. I thought he was all right. I liked him. He was cool. Dubs in the chat for Waylon. All right, guys. That's it for me. I guess I'll catch you guys tomorrow. I'm not sure the time. Probably be somewhere in the later. And so we'll be back. Hopefully there's a break in this case and it's solved tomorrow. That would be awesome. It would be absolutely awesome. Let's just hope that she's still alive. You got to be able to have hope, and leave a comment after the video and let me know what you think, and make sure that they're nice. Like, don't go, hey, fat boy. You can leave that stuff at home. But I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you later.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lab After Dark is starting shortly.
You want attention? I'll give you attention.
After Dark is starting.
right.
Well, you open that Pandora's door.
Not the fee, but whatever.